Precinct 4. Precinct 4 reports 16 present, 15 absent. Precinct 5. I've got to go over that table and get some assistance. 15 present, 15 absent. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 reports 18 present, 14 absent. Precinct 6. Precinct 6 reports 19 present, 8 absent. Precinct 7. Precinct 7 reports 20 present, 10 absent. Precinct 8. Precinct 8 reports 15 present, 12 absent. At large. At large reports 15 present, 8 absent. One 155 members being present, we have a quorum. I'm going to have the monitors keep their. First of all, any newly elected town meeting members, I'd ask them to stand in their precinct to be sworn in by our town clerk.
Good evening, everyone. If I can just have you raise your right hands for me. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as a town meeting member in accordance with the bylaws of the town of Milford and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so help you God? Thank you.
The clerk will now read the warrant.
Annual Town Meeting, May 18th, 2015, Milford, Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Worcester County. To either constable of the town of Milford in said county, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth aforesaid, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Milford, qualified by law to vote in town affairs, to meet in the upper hall of the Milford Town Hall, 52 Main Street, on the 18th day of May, 2015 AD, at 7:30 p.m., and then and there to act upon the following articles. Article 1.
Motion made and seconded. We dispense with the reading of the articles. Any vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion's carried. The clerk will now read the officer's return.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Worcester County, Milford, Mass. Date April 16, 2015. Pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified the inhabitants of the town of Milford to meet at the time and place for the purpose within mentioned by posting attested copies of this warrant in 10 or more public places in Milford. Thomas O'Laughlin, Police Chief.
Just before we start the resolutions, I thought it'd be appropriate. I was just glancing through the one of the original bylaws, and come to find out this year is our 235th anniversary of the incorporation of Milford. And I can remember speaking with Anthony Brenner, who was very active when we had our 200th celebration with the great parade through the town of Milford 35 years ago. And when I spoke with Tony, he says, well, you're going to be part of the 235th celebration. So in memory of Tony Brenner and our 235th anniversary of our incorporation, I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. In fact, the resolution was signed by John Hancock, who was then the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So here we go into our 236th year. Are there any resolutions to be presented? Chairman Murray.
Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with great sorrow and deep regret of the passing of Paul E. Curran, whereas Paul E. Curran was for many years an elected member of the town meeting, whereas Paul E. Curran served this community faithfully and unselfishly as a loyal and sincere citizen, therefore be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute to his memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to his family, Respectfully submitted, Milford Board of Selectmen, William E. Kincaid, Jr., William D. Buckley, Brian W. Murray, Chairman and friend.
Are there any other resolutions?
Yes, Mr. Moderator.
Selectman Buckley.
Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with great sorrow and deep regret of the passing of Patricia A. Genoa. Whereas Patricia A. Genoa has for many years an elected member of the town meeting. Whereas Patricia A. Genoa served this community faithfully and unselfishly as a loyal and sincere citizen. Therefore be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute to her memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to her family. Respectfully submitted, William Kincaid, Jr., William Buckley, Attorney Brian Murray, Chairman.
I'll ask the members to rise and remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of Paul Curran and Patty Genoa. It's the pleasure of the meeting, Attorney Moody. Motion made and seconded. We adjourn the annual town meeting to take up the business of the special town meeting, which is scheduled for this evening. Does any voter care to be heard on the motion to adjourn? If not, the question comes upon the motion to adjourn. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Our special town meeting. I'll ask the clerk to read the warrant.
Special town meeting, May 18th, 2015, Milford, Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Worcester County. To either constable of the town of Milford in said county, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth aforesaid, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Milford qualified by law to vote in town affairs, to meet in the upper hall of the Milford Town Hall, 52 Main Street, on the 18th day of May, 2015 AD, at 7:30 p.m., and then and there to act upon the following article. Article 1.
Motion made and seconded. We dispense with the reading of the articles. Any voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is carried. The clerk will now read the officer's return.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Worcester County, Milford, Mass., date April 28, 2015. Pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified the inhabitants of the town of Milford to meet at the time and place for the purpose within mentioned by posting attested copies of this warrant in 10 or more places in Milford. Thomas O'Laughlin, Police Chief. Thank you.
What is the we should take attendance again just to verify that we have the same. If there's any addition, let's take the attendance once more for the special town meeting. If you've come in after the monitor has taken it, advise him or her, please. Precinct 1. Precinct 1 reports 15 present, 13 absent. Precinct 2. 20 present, 10 absent. Precinct 2 reports 20 present, 10 absent. Precinct 3. Precinct 3 reports 20 present, 10 absent. Precinct 4. Precinct 4 reports 18 present, 12 absent. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 reports 20 present, 12 absent. Precinct 6. Precinct 6 reports 20 present, 12 absent. Precinct 7 absent, I'm sorry. Precinct 7. Precinct 7 reports 21 present, 9 absent. Precinct 8. Precinct 8 reports 16 present, 11 absent. At large. At large reports 17 present, 7 absent. One 167 members being present, we have a quorum. What is the pleasure of the meeting? Attorney Murray.
I move that the town vote pursuant to MGL Chapter 40, Section 59, and MGL Chapter 23A, Section 3E, and Section 3F to approve a tax increment financing agreement between the town and Consigli Construction Company, Inc. and Granite Building Realty, LLC, collectively the company, for property shown on Assessors Map 34, Lot 17D, the TIF agreement, which TIF agreement provides for real estate tax exemptions at the exemption rate schedule set forth therein, and approve a certified project application submission to the Massachusetts Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, the EACC, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute the TIF agreement and approve submission to the EACC of the TIF agreement and certified project application, all relating to the project as described in the TIF agreement and any necessary documents relating thereto, and to take such other actions as are necessary or appropriate to obtain approval of the TIF agreement and certified project application and related submissions, and to take other such actions as necessary or appropriate to implement those documents.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 59, and MGLA Chapter 23A, Sections 3E and 3F to approve a tax increment financing agreement between the town and Consigli Construction Company, Inc. and Granite Building Realty, LLC, collectively the company, for properties shown on Assessor's Map 34, Lot 17D, the TIF agreement, which TIF agreement provides for real estate tax exemptions at the exemption rate schedule set forth therein, and approve a certified project application submission to the Massachusetts Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute the TIF agreement and approve submission to the EACC of the TIF agreement and certified project application, all relating to the project as described in the TIF agreement and any necessary documents relating thereto, and to take such other actions as are necessary or appropriate to obtain approval of the TIF agreement and certified project application and related submissions, and to take such other actions as necessary or appropriate to implement those documents. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Attorney Murray.
Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, as the article indicates, this is involving a tax increment financing agreement, typically referred to as a TIF. You may recall that we have done this in the past for at least 10 or so companies throughout the town of Milford, companies like Avisha, Lowe's, Biomeasure, and Clark. Now, it's commonly referred to as a tax break, but I would submit to you that that is not accurate in any way, shape, or form. It really is a development incentive. And what the Consigli Construction Company is proposing is as follows. They're looking to take down the building immediately to the right of their present headquarters on Sumner Street, which was the former Granite St. Mary's School, and that particular building had an ambulance company in it, and construct a 20,000 square foot addition. It's going to be on that lot and also the lot behind their present headquarters. The project cost will be $5.5 million. The goal is to create 50 new jobs for the company in the town of Milford. These kinds of jobs are engineering, information technology, office, administration. And the way this works is Consigli will pay a percentage of the incremental increase in the value of the developed land. The town would continue to get 100% of the existing taxes on the land as presently constituted. So the model is for 15 years, and what that means is the tax right now on this particular parcel is $10,400 per year. The town would get that for the 15 years, which is approximately $156,000. But there would also be an incremental increase in the taxes because of the developed property that Consigli would pay to the town, which would be an increased tax revenue of approximately $380,000. The total taxes received by the town throughout the 15-year TIF would approach $530,000. Now, there will be a savings to the company of what the full tax would be less the TIF agreement, and that savings is going to be about $640,000. I think the important thing to remember is that after 15 years, the property fully assessed will be fully taxed to the town of Milford from there on. Without this development incentive, there is no $380,000 to the town. There is no full taxation after 15 years. And right now, the town of Milford is realizing the long-term benefit of TIFs passed. TIFs given to Waters Company and Homes have now come to their end. And those properties, those commercial properties, are paying full value on their development at the dual tax rate that the town has. Past generations of leaders have done their work, and past town meetings have taken votes to put those TIFs in place so that now we can financially benefit at the full taxation. If we want to keep this community growing for our children and our grandchildren, we have the same obligation to those generations to keep businesses like this in the town of Milford, which after 15 years will be paying full tax to the town. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I have to tell you that right now this is a global economy. There's no question about it. Now, we think about Consigli Construction. It's been a Milford company since 1905. We think of it always as our company. But the fact of the matter is, they're doing work all over the eastern seaboard, and they're not competing with companies in Milford. They're competing with companies all over the USA and internationally. And they're competing quite well. Right now, they're the second largest general contractor in the state of Massachusetts. To me, to have that kind of a company in the town of Milford is just a huge benefit to all of us. And you might say, well, you know, this is Milford, this is Consigli, they've been here forever, they're not going to relocate. That's not true. That's not true. They have other options, and their workforce that they look to draw on are basically young engineering professionals. These individuals, they'd much rather be in the city, go out after work, enjoy what the city might have. But I think Consigli is smart enough to realize that if they can get this kind of a benefit, they can still recruit top talent and probably offer a greater compensation package to come out here rather than stay in the city of Boston. And don't forget, we have a dual tax rate in Milford, and as much as I advocate for the dual tax rate and as much as I understand and appreciate the benefit that it gives our residents, it penalizes businesses. It puts us at a competitive disadvantage when we look to court business. So it's very important that we look at these TIF agreements and look at them very seriously. And as I've looked at them as a member of Board of Selectmen over the past 15 years, basically, I start with whether or not it's a good business. So how would I define if this is a good business? Well, there's either no or minimal detrimental effect on the town. It's not a noxious product that the business is making. We don't have a tire melting factory. It doesn't increase traffic. It doesn't have an inordinate use of town resources. Secondly, I look whether or not the company is offering well-paying jobs and the ripple effect of this business on other businesses in the town of Milford. So Consigli Construction is going to have 50 new hires at least. They're going to have meetings. Other people are going to be coming in. Hotels are going to get used. Restaurants are going to get used. The ripple effect to the economy is great. And lastly, I've always looked to a company's community involvement. Out-of-town companies, out-of-state companies, I've had them give me a list of charities that they've contributed to, just to see if they're going to give back to the community when we're making the step towards them. Well, the advantage we have here is we don't even have to look at that with Consigli Construction, because we know that they get an A+ in this regard. They have always been there for the community, whether it's the youth center, youth organizations, schools, businesses. They're always there to contribute to the town. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had Consigli Construction here since 1905, but without passage of this article, there's no guarantee that they'll be here beyond. And I think that the town of Milford deserves a company like this. So I urge your approval on this article.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Article 2.
Mr. Moderator.
Selectman Buckley.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to utilize any unexpended balance of those funds transferred from the excess and deficiency account under Article 18 of the May 19, 2014 annual town meeting, and any unexpended balance of these funds transferred from the excess and deficiency account under Article 27 of the May 20th, 2013 meeting, annual town meeting, for the purposes of procuring consulting services to produce engineering drawings, plans, specifications, along with grant writing associated with the fiscal year 2016 state and federal grant applications.
Motion has been made and seconded. The town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to utilize any unexpended balance of those funds transferred from the excess and deficiency account under Article 18 of the May 19, 2014 annual town meeting, and any unexpended balance of those funds transferred from the excess and deficiency account under Article 27 of the May 20, 2013 annual town meeting for the purpose of procuring consultant services to produce engineering drawings, plans, and specifications along with grant writing associated with fiscal year 2016 state and federal grant applications. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Selectman Buckley?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, this article will permit the transfer of funds appropriated in the May 2013 May town meeting, as well as the 2014 annual town meeting, from the Community Development Block Grant, what you may know as CDBG, Consulting and Engineering Services. Now used for consulting engineering services, we'd like to carry that forward to 2016 for state and federal grant applications. In order to apply and receive grant funds, we need to work to the benefit of the town to procure consulting services, as well as produce engineering drawings, plans, and specifications. Approval of this article will allow the town to be in position to apply and take advantage of these grants should they become available. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Motion made and secondly dissolve the warrant. Does any vote care to be heard? If not, question comes upon the dissolution of the warrant. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. The special town meeting has been dissolved. Now, since the special town meeting has been dissolved, we'll resume the annual town meeting, and I'll ask if there are any committee reports to be presented to the annual town meeting. Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. Good evening. So before you should all have a copy of the CIC's report. It did not ship out with the warrant, as you probably noticed. We just got a recent vacancy filled this past week, so we put everything together just last week.
I can't.
So we got everything put together last week, and that's the materials. The materials right before you. There we go. Hey, how about that? All right, just a few highlights of the paper before you. It's only 3 pages. At the end of the first paragraph, just to let you know, all the sponsors did submit their paperwork, so we can carry on with the votes of the ranked items. The last paragraph on the first page, before we get into the ranking, just to inform you that all of the articles were favorably recommended by this committee. I would note also that the FinCom is in agreement on all these same articles. At the top of page 2 is the actual ranking for these 6 capital articles we had to review. You'll note that the last 2 of the ranked items have 5 Ts. That means that they are tied at 5th place. And then on the last page is just a brief description of the articles and our findings. Thank you.
Are there any other committee reports to be presented? Chairman of the Finance Committee, Mr. Shane. I can't do it.
The new sound system. Can everybody hear me in the back? I'm not going to sing. Well, maybe. Turned it on. 1 minute while the projector warms up. It's not a very long report. There is some detail involved, and it's important that we all understand what we're voting on for Article 4. I've also added a couple of slides on funding for the articles. And I think that's it. So it's not a very long report. It's just important to see. How's that? Everybody see it? Good to go. Well, this is the slide that I normally put up. This is what we try to do on the Finance Committee. Reduce long-term debt without increasing operational budget by adding available funds to stabilization. You do recall that we keep adding money every year to stabilization to pay for that $60 million school that we've approved a year and a half ago. So we continue to do that, and as we do that and draw down the funds of stabilization, we will maintain stabilization account in a very good condition. Second, plan for the future capital items by adding available funds to the capital stabilization. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we established a short-term capitalization account to plan for capital items that will be coming on off of a 5-year plan. I mean, next year we have $1 million fire truck. We're doing a lot of different things, and by doing this, by putting the money there, we won't have to take it out of free cash or raise and appropriate the money. It will be in that account, and we'll be able to pay cash and minimize debt. Last one is increase and maintain a commitment to reduce the tax rate. Last year, we reduced the tax rate by $1.8 million, and in FY16, we project to do the same $1.8 million. That's a lot of money, bless you. It's a lot of money to give back to the tax rate. And as we go forward, we're going to try and maintain some level between $1 million and $1.5 million. Right now, we can do $1.8 million, and that's what we're going to do, and it's a good move. Last, maintain operational budget control. That's the hardest part. On a $90 million budget, 85% of the budget is salaries and wages. So we have contracts that we have to deal with, and in years that are difficult on the revenue side, what we've tried to do is minimize the maintenance and minimize the increases to the departments. And so if we've asked for 2%, which we did this year, It's up to the departments, if they go over that 2%, to try and absorb it in their own budget. And that's hard. All right, so these are the objectives for FY16's budget. As I said, taxpayer relief, $1.8 million. We also put aside $1 million for capital projects like you see on this year's warrant. Some of them will be taken out of the long-term or the short-term capitalization stabilization account. Others will be taken from free cash or that budget item of $1 million. Maintain debt service at $3.5 million. That's important as we start to pay the school debt. We don't want to increase the operational budget, because if we do increase that number, obviously departments are going to suffer because the money's got to come from somewhere. So that's why we're going to take it at a stabilization, and we should be good to go and maintain that $3.5 million. Doesn't give us a lot of room on the debt schedule. Operational expenses, recommend a modest increase to the departments of 2%. Operational expenses and maintenance, try to maintain 0, and there'll be exceptions, which I'll explain. And again, increase the stabilization account by $500,000 FY16. We're not going to be able to do that next year, and I'll explain why. All right, this is hard to see, and I apologize. We need a better video system. This is what we put together as a balance sheet, okay? On the left-hand side are the revenues. Can anybody see this, or is it too out of focus? Okay. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm focusing without my glasses. Huh? No, this needs to go back, actually. Closer? All right. Left hand, I'll get it on. I'll just move it over. Left-hand side is the revenue side. 2015, I mean, we've done this every year. 2015 revenue last year was $60,593,474. We're allowed to increase that number by 2.5%, which is Prop 2.5. And new growth we estimate at 400,000. Total $62,508,311. Local, that's what we can raise and appropriate. Local receipts are $6 million. That's tax, property tax, and other taxes. Whole stuff. I don't know. Not important. Cherry sheet numbers. $24,340,000 is state aid. This is the House Ways and Means 2016 number. Now, they have to go through and approve that, and then it's got to go back then it's got to go to the Senate, then they have to get a committee together and approve the number, and then it's got to go to the governor for approval. So we're basing it on the House Ways and Means number, which is usually pretty close. The room occupancy tax is the hotel tax. That's what we receive on pretty much an annual basis. Offsets for the library, which are reductions, and school choice. This is school choice in. This number comes from students coming into our system that other towns pay for. That number goes directly to the school budget. Then the sewer department is totally separate. It's an enterprise fund. So at the end of the day, total receipts, $97,512,457. It's the easy side. This is the hard side. Expenditures. Again, we projected or recommended a 2% budget increase across the board for salaries and wages and 0 on expenses. So the left-hand column is what we projected the number to be. The right-hand column is what was actually submitted and approved. As you can see, we projected 91,538,753, and the number actually came in at 90,892,908, which is good. It's less than we projected. Then we add the bottom, which is stabilization, overlay account, assessments, that's choice out. Those are the number of students that leave the system and go to other towns. We're paying over $1 million for students to go to other towns, and we're only getting 400,000 students in. Capital projects, $1 million, and the levy, I'm sorry, I'm just having a senior moment. The taxpayer relief is what the levy adjustment is, 1.8 million. As you can see, the expenditures are 96,592,321. Now, if you go to the center, the surplus was 274,291, which is different. The surplus submitted was 920,000. Snow and ice, which was, I think we had a bad snow and ice year, was $820,000. So the blue circle is you, but that's the lowest it's been since I've been on the Finance Committee. So it's a very difficult year. And I'll explain some of the numbers down at the bottom. So we have to watch that number because it's pretty close. Because if the budget goes, or the state aid goes one way, that number can go away. Okay, back to normal. Okay, some of the department highlights. As you know, last year we instituted an IT department, and this year we're funding it at $468,000. That's about $230,000 for equipment and maintenance. A lot of money. School district, they went up 3.95% to $42,600,000, and I'll go into a little bit of detail about that as well. Blackstone Valley came in at $50,000 less than last year. Everybody applaud Mike, okay. The cemetery number, even though it's not a very big budget, went up 11%, and the reason it went up 11% is last year we had an issue with the Purchase Street Cemetery and the Vernon Grove Cemetery. The Purchase Street Cemetery needed some work, and there was nobody really in charge of that cemetery. So the Finance Committee and the Vernon Grove people, we all sat down and agreed that they would take over the maintenance of the Purchase Street Cemetery. We and the Finance Committee felt that was very important because the Milfordians buried there, and it needs to be kept up and maintained. So the budget went up 11%, which was about $8,000 or $9,000. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was important to point out that that cemetery will be taken care of. All right, big numbers. Workman's comp went down because we had less people on workman's comp, but retirement contribution went up 5.9%, $4 million annual budget. Health insurance went up 7.2%. Our health insurance costs are $12,300,000 on an annual basis on a $90 million budget. That's significant. Short-term interest went up 25%, $150,000. The reason it went up is because we're starting to bond the new school, and we have to take out short-term bonds before we go into the long-term bond. So we increased that number. There was an increase in electricity costs, or does everybody know, right? To the town, our budget in FY16 will be $1,300,000. It's up about $450,000 over last year, or over this year. And the snow and ice was up 72% to $860,000. Scotty, we can't have any more snow. All right. This, and this is hard to see as well, is the cash flow for the new Woodland School. The red line is where we are on the curve. We have paid to date $7 million in money to keep that project going forward. Now, we get reimbursed from the state, so it's a cash flow issue that Zach works out, but this is how it's going to go over the next year and a half. And at the end, we'll pay $60,893,000 plus, including the reimbursement from the state. So we have to watch, or Zach has to watch cash flow going forward for the new school. It's very important. and they have to be on budget. Also very important. Okay, nobody's going to see this. Just some highlights. I went over the 2% overall, the retirement, health insurance, electricity, 100,000 snow and ice. Let me explain that. In our budget, we have 500,000 set aside for snow and ice every year. Snow and ice numbers have been running 200,000 to 300,000 over that on an annual basis. So this year, the Finance Committee agreed to increase that 500 to 600,000. Now you say, okay, great, but the problem is, if you increase that number, you can never decrease it. It's a state law. So once we set it 600, we're there. Add ad infinitum. So increase the operational budget by $100,000. Okay. Not a bad deal. Let me talk about the school district and what the numbers meant, the 3.95% increase. This is what the school department presented to us for increases for this year above the 2% and going forward. This is ELL and special education. Increases over what we had in this year's budget. And please understand, the Finance Committee understands that special education and ELL are underfunded mandates by the federal government and the state. So we have no choice but to take care of those kids. And it's expensive, and I'll show you that number later. So right now they're asking for, on the special ed side, 1 teacher, 1 assistant, and some hardware. And on the ELL side, 3 teachers and some interpreters and administrators and some material for $569,530 increase in their budget. That's part of that 3.9% increase. If I'm going too fast, stop me. About 3.5 weeks ago, there was a meeting at the high school with Lieutenant Governor Polito, Representative Fernandez, and State Senator Fatman, and a number of administrators and teachers and local officials to discuss the special education and the ELL problem. And Milford is unique, somewhat unique in the state. There are about 6 or 7 towns that are in the same situation, where we have a high number of ELL students and they're only funded at 48 cents on a dollar by the state. So there was a great presentation by Jennifer Lancaster, the director of ELL, and these are some of the slides from her presentation. This is important. Back in 2005, there were 170 ELL students in the system. 10 years later, there are 450 students in the system at all grade levels. We have no choice but to take care of this. So it's going to cost money. That $539,000 is part of that cost, or part of this reason. This chart shows the number of students versus the number of teachers or direct service personnel to the ELL students. You can see that the number of students is back up at 450, as we said, and the number of service personnel, teachers and aides, et cetera, has gone pretty flat. And there's only about 14 of them in the whole system. And they need special certification to do all this. Just some numbers from Jennifer's report. Projected 2015-2016 numbers. A total of 507 ELL students out of 4,150 students in Milford. Significant percentage. We have to fund it. So the Finance Committee and the town is prepared to do it, and this body needs to understand what the cost is. Again, 48 cents on a dollar at this point in time. Special education is funded with circuit breaker at about 72 cents on a dollar. Both of those items are being looked at the state legislature for modifications and changes. There have been bills submitted by Representative Fernandez and Senator Fatman, and I know, I was told, I'm sorry, that there's a group getting together and making a presentation on the Chapter 70 formula to take into consideration demographics. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to eventually happen. How'd that do that? Just some numbers. Special education. The in-district teachers and materials are $5,381,000 and change for 737 students out of 4,100, or 4,300 students. $7,000 per student. Out of district, when we can't satisfy the needs of those special needs kids, is in the this is in the 2016 budget. 2,000,001 and 53 pupils at a cost of about $40,000 a pupil. Now, again, we have no choice. These are federally mandated requirements. So if somebody has a problem with and an IEP is set, we have to do it. The district has added programs over the course of the last 4 or 5 or 6 years to bring more students in as opposed to sending them out of district, which has saved the town significant amount of money, even though that's a big number. So total special education, $7,545,000 out of a $42 million budget. ELL, $1,405,000, 472 pupils at $2,900 a student. So the total special ed ELL budget is almost $9 million out of a $42 million budget. It's about 21% of their budget. Significant number. So that's where their 3.95% increase comes from, for the most part. Hello? All right, so our recommendations for town meeting tonight is recommending a budget increase of 4.1%, limit debt service to $3.5 million using the stabilization account when necessary, and it will be used next year. Maintain the infrastructure and continue a moratorium on new debt. We're still very close to that debt limit that we want to be at, and over the course of the next 7 or 8 years, a lot of the debt will start falling off. Insignificant compared to the $60 million. Okay, moving on to the town meeting articles tonight. It's important to know where the funding is going to come from. We have choices. We can raise and appropriate the money, we can use free cash, we can use stabilization, or we can bond the money, the project. The biggest one on this list is the Godfrey Brook number. It's 36, Article 36. So I thought I'd highlight that and explain how we're going to pay for that. Our proposed way to pay for it. We're going to take $500,000 that was going to be slated for stabilization and put it towards Godfrey Brook. We're going to use $1 million in free cash, which leaves a total of $1.1 million out of the cost. And if you see below that, we expect to see $800,000 from FEMA, which will leave us $300,000 to either bond or pay out of free cash in the fall, which is really good manipulation of the money in order to do this project. A bunch of us worked on that, the town accountant and the treasurer and finance committee, so, and our financial advisor, Paul Abundanza. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
What's the pleasure of the meeting? Article 2, Mr. Legore.
Ladies and gentlemen, I move that the town vote to amend the wages and salary schedule of the Wage and Salary Administration Plan by establishing new position levels and salary levels as recommended by the Personnel Board for the fiscal year beginning July 2015 as follows.
The motion has been made that we waive the reading of the remainder of the article if it is exactly as appears in the handout that each town meeting member has. Is it, Russ?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Any vote care to be heard in the motion to waive the reading? If not, the question comes upon the motion to waive the reading. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Unfavorable on Article 2, sir.
Unfavorable. Okay. Any vote care to be heard?
Is this 2%? Oh, I'm sorry. Favorable.
I'm sorry. Favorable recommendation of the Finance Committee. Any vote care to be heard? Mr. Law.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Personnel Board has been conducting a compensation analysis study for the last several months. Our findings at this time are still inconclusive. We recommend a 2% for salary and hourly and a 1% for all others. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? Mr. Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Visconti, precinct member from Precinct 8. I move to amend Article 2 in the following way. Once again, I move to amend Article 2 in the following way. Under the heading, Clerks, Various Boards and Committees, strike line item rate amounts for the following. Clerk Finance Committee, Minutes Recorder Board of Selectmen, Clerk Personnel Board, Clerk Planning Board, Clerk Conservation Commission, Clerk School Building Committee, Clerk Board of Health, Clerk Capital Improvement Committee, Clerk Vernon Grove Cemetery Trustees, Clerk Board of Registrars of Voters, Clerk Park Commissioners, Clerk Zoning Board of Appeals, Minutes Recorder Capital Improvement Committee, Minutes Recorder Industrial Development Commission, Minutes Recorder Library Board of Trustees. Replace the line item rate amounts listed above with $0.00.
An amendment to the motion has been proposed by Mr. Visconti to say as follows. Under the heading, Clerks, Various Boards and Committees, strike line item rate amounts for the following. Clerk Finance Committee, Minutes Recorder Board of Selectmen, Clerk Personnel Board, Clerk Planning Board, Clerk Conservation Commission, Clerk School Building Committee, Clerk Board of Health, Clerk Capital Improvement Committee, Clerk Vernon Grove Cemetery Trustees, Clerk Board of Registrars of Voters, Clerk Park Commissioners, Clerk Zoning Board of Appeals, Minutes Recorder Capital Improvement Committee, Minutes Recorder Industrial Development Commission, Minutes Recorder Library Board of Trustees, and replace the line item rate amounts listed with 0.00. Okay, any voter care to be heard on the amendment to the motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Visconti.
Ladies and gentlemen, these positions are volunteer positions. They require about 20 hours of time per year. That's 20 hours per year. This motion will save the taxpayers approximately $44,000 per year to the detriment of no one, but to the benefit of the taxpayers. $44,000 a year. Let's put it in perspective. More than 2 years' payments for fireworks. That means if you approve this motion, this amendment to the motion, we have 2 free years of fireworks. More than 2 free years of fireworks. In 10 years, we will save in excess of $500,000. Could go to ELL, could go to special ed. $500,000 in 10 years. If you approve this amendment to the motion, I would ask for your favorable approval on the amendment to the motion and subsequently the motion as amended. Thank you.
Any other vote that care to be heard on the amendment to the motion? Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Good evening. So I would urge we not accept this amendment. I would point out a couple faults. One, the amendment, the previous speaker talked about these being volunteer positions. They're jobs. They may meet, less than your typical 9-to-5 job, but they're jobs. There's work to be done, responsibilities to be carried out. And the second problem is that in relation to my particular committee, the Capital Improvement Committee, the 2 different line items don't actually add up to a savings that was alleged in the previous speaker, by the previous speaker. For instance, we only have a clerk. We have in the ratings here a opening for a minutes recorder should we not have a clerk who does that job. So we will not save that line item of almost $2,000 because we don't pay anybody that $2,000 currently. We have a clerk who does double duty but does not get double paid. So I would urge us not to accept the amendment as it's currently presented.
Any other vote that care to be heard on the amendment to the motion? Selectman Buckley.
Over the course of the evening, we'll hear a lot of spirited debate about some very substantive issues. This is not one of them. What I would ask, these people work very hard, and I'm not sure the amount of study that's gone into just exactly how many hours somebody works, or how much of those hours are on camera, how much of those hours are in meeting, how much of those hours are spent at home. But I would urge you to defeat this amendment. Thank you very much.
Any other vote that care to be heard on the amendment to the motion? Mr. Burns.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, as a library trustee, I can assure you that our minutes recorder works very hard in what she does. She provides us, and by extension, the entire town of Milford, a great service by knowing exactly what she's doing, and she does it extremely well, sometimes under very trying circumstances. One day last year that she had to come in the early morning hours because we had to have an emergency kind of meeting, and she was here to record for us. And she was very generous in her time in doing so. It was something that came up very unexpectedly, and she was there for us. These people really have to work very hard. They have to know what they're doing, and then what she really has to do is she takes down her notes and then she cleans up her notes so that they can be as perfect as they possibly can. That requires additional amounts of time for her in her own life, at home, taking care of this while she's taking care of other things in her life. And I know that what she does for us is replicated by what the other recording secretaries and minutes recorders do for their boards. So I would really urge each and every one of you to defeat this amendment. Thank you.
Any other vote that care to be heard on the amendment to the motion? Mr. Heller first. Attorney Heller.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Warren Heller, and I'm a precinct member from Precinct 4, and I'm a member of the Personnel Board. These clerks to various committees and boards, as you've heard, are not volunteers. Some of the boards which have clerks have to have a clerk with specific knowledge and abilities. If you notice, they're not all lumped together. They're not all the same rate of pay. At one time, many years ago in the town of Milford, a clerk was a clerk and everybody got pretty much the same amount of money. Back 15 years ago, we had a compensation study similar to the one that we're working on now. That was called the Bennett Study. And one of the groups of individuals whom we studied were the various clerks of various boards. And what we do now, anybody who serves on any board or has employees, town employees who are not union employees, for every job in the town of Milford not covered by contracts or not part of a union, they have a job description, a very detailed job description. And we have a PAQ, that's a position analysis questionnaire, that every department head has to fill out for every person who works for them. That includes the various clerks to various boards. One of the things that's on a PAQ for a clerk position is how frequently does the board meet? How many members are on the board? How many people does that clerk have to answer to or provide materials to? So therefore, if you notice that the highest paying clerk on the clerk's list is the Finance Committee's clerk. And why is that? Well, I think we all know how frequently and how hard our Finance Committee works. There are 15 members when there's a full complement of members of the Finance Committee. The clerk for that committee has to have paperwork ready for them, has to have minutes for those meetings that they have so frequently, and I don't think I need to explain too much more. The same type of analysis went into every other clerk, and that's why they're not all getting the same rate of pay. I would urge you to defeat this amendment. There is not a single clerk in the town of Milford who only works 20 hours a year or is a volunteer. So I urge you to defeat the amendment, and I move the question on that.
Motion has been made to move the question on the amendment to the motion. Moving the question requires a two-thirds vote. All those in favor of moving the question on the amendment manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. All those in favor of moving the question on the amendment rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. All those opposed rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. Precinct 1 reports 14 in favor, 1 opposed. Precinct 2, 19 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 3, Precinct 3 reports 20 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 4. Precinct 4 reports 18 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 reports 30 in favor, 1 opposed. Precinct 6. 20 in favor, 0 opposed. Precinct 6 reports 20 in favor, 0 opposed. Precinct 7. Precinct 7 reports 23 in favor, 0 opposed. Precinct 8. Precinct A reports 14 in favor, 1 opposed. At large? At large, 14 in favor, none opposed. Uh, 172 in favor, 2 opposed. The necessary two-thirds has been acquired to move the question on the amendment to the motion. The amendment to the motion was presented by Mr. Visconti and proposes deletion of the clerks under those headings and deletion also of the amount, the stipend indicated. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion manifest by saying aye. Those opposed, no. No. The amendment is defeated. Any vote that care to be heard on the original motion? If not, the question comes upon the original motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Article 3. Mr. Kincaid, Selectman Kincaid.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to fix the salary and compensation of all elected officers of the town as provided by Section 108 of Chapter 41 of the General Laws as follows.
Motion has been made to not read the remainder of the motion. If it's exactly as appears in the warrant, it is. Any other vote that care to be heard on the motion to dispense with the reading? All those in favor of dispensing with the reading manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote that care to be heard? Selectman Kincaid.
This year, the Board of Selectmen are recommending a 2% salary adjustment for the 3 full-time elected officials, town clerk, tax collector, and highway surveyor, and a 2% increase for all other elected officials.
Any other vote that care to be heard? Mr. Visconti.
Excuse me. I move to amend Article 3 in the following way. Once again, I move to amend Article 3 in the following way. Strike line item rate amounts for the following. Selectman Chairman, Selectman Member, Board of Health Chairman, Board of Health Member, Sewer Commissioner Chairman, Sewer Commissioner Member, Park Commissioner Chairman, Park Commissioner Member, Planning Board Chairman, Planning Board Member, and replace line item rate amounts listed with 0.00. Thank you.
An amendment to the motion is to strike the line item rates amounts for the following: Selectman Chairman, Selectman Member, Board of Health Chairman, Board of Health Member, Sewer Commissioners Chairman, Sewer Commissioners Member, Park Commissioners Chairman, Park Commissioners Member, Planning Board Chairman, Planning Board Member, and replace the line item rate amounts listed with $0.00.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, volunteer positions, around 20 hours per year each. However, if you check the attendance records, you'll find that it's even far less than 20 hours per week for many of those positions. Savings per year, just under $60,000 a year savings if you approve this amendment. If you approve this amendment, it'll be to the detriment of nobody. Once again, these are volunteer positions. Where I come from, when you volunteer for something, you neither expect nor accept compensation. In 10 years, over $500,000 savings, closer to $750,000 savings. We can build a new school for ELL and special ed. With this amendment, if it had been combined with this motion this amendment to the motion, if it had been combined with the amendment for Article 2, we would have saved over $1 million in 10 years. $1 million in 10 years. Forget about your TIFs. $1 million in 10 years for the sole reason of having volunteers truly volunteer. Please vote favorably on this amendment to the motion. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard in the amendment to the motion? Motion made and seconded that we move the previous question. Attempt to shut off debate requires a 2/3 vote. I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, the individual precincts will be polled. All those in favor of moving the question on the amendment manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion to move the previous question is carried unanimously. The question comes now upon the amendment to the motion, which is to strike the line item rates amounts for the following: Selectman Chairman, Selectman Member, Board of Health Chairman, Board of Health Member, Sewer Commissioners Chairman, Sewer Commissioners Member, Park Commissioners Chairman, Park Commissioners Member, Planning Board Chairman, Planning Board Member, and replace the line item with 0. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The amendment to the motion is defeated. Any vote care to be heard on the motion as originally presented? If not, the question comes upon the motion as originally presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 4. Mr. Shane.
Mr. Moderator, Selectmen, I move that the town meeting receive the report of the Finance Committee and that the moderator inquire if any voter wishes to consider any items separately. That if any voter so wishes, he or she shall ask the moderator to remove this item from the report, and when this is done, that the town vote to raise and appropriate and transfer where indicated in the report the amount recommended in the Finance Committee report as amended, and that the meeting shall then consider the items which have been removed from the report by taking up each item individually.
May I have the motion? Motion has been made and seconded that the town meeting receive the report of the Finance Committee and that the moderator inquire if any voter wishes to consider any item separately. That if any voter so wishes, he or she shall ask the moderator to remove this item from the report, and when this is done, that the town vote to raise and appropriate and transfer, where indicated in the report, the amount recommended in the Finance Committee report as amended, and that the meeting shall then consider the items which have been removed from the report by taking up each item individually. I'll now inquire as to whether any member wishes to remove any line item. Mr. Nero. School Department 300. Any other voter care to remove any item from the Finance Committee report? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Motion is carried. Item School Department Budget 300 has been removed. And Mr. Nero, since you removed it, what would you propose under 300?
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to address the issue on ELL. The schools have asked, and there have been various figures presented, for approximately $200,000 in additional funds to address this expenditure. English Learner Program. This is a program for largely illegal immigrants. To make it absolutely clear, we are all immigrants. Both sets of my grandparents were immigrants, legal immigrants, and one of their proudest moments was to become a U.S. citizen.
Excuse me, Mr. Nero, I don't think you have everyone's attention. Go ahead.
I'm not chastising these illegal immigrants. I'm questioning the cost to educate them. We're asked to pay this bill and endure what illegal immigration has brought to Milford over the last few years. These people had the courage to leave their homes 5,000 miles away in South America and come to America for a better life. And thousands came to Milford. And now we're asked to pay that bill. They were invited here, told they would get free housing, Section 8, free food, EBT cards, medical care, Obamacare, and free education with you paying the bill. Only a fool would turn this deal down. Most people came from South America that live here in Milford, 5,000 miles away. They didn't walk across the border, and they didn't hitchhike to Milford. They were flown and bused to America. And now we in Milford are asked to support illegal immigration, teach them English, educate them at approximately $10,000 apiece. That's what it costs for each Milford student. How did it happen? Well, the president advertised in South America inviting illegal immigration.
All right, Mr. Nero, we're not discussing immigration. We're talking about the school department budget and the finance committee report. If you wish to propose an amount which is currently $42,600,000 to increase or decrease that amount, then we can talk about the budget. We can't, and we're talking about a particular section of the budget and how much it costs. If you can restrict it to that discussion, okay, rather than the whole immigration issue.
If you just give me a moment.
I'll give you 1 minute.
Okay. U.S. funds were used to fly and bus these people to Camp Edwards and other places in New England. And like many communities across the nation, have now 500 of these students to educate. Governor Patrick contacted each of these communities and asked how many you would accept, and each community gave him that number, and they were bused to the community. Do you know how many Wellesley, Dover, or Sudbury, Duxbury took? 0. Do you know how many Millis, Medway, Hopkinton, Mendon, Upton, Holliston, Hopedale took? All single digits, 2, 4, 6. Milford took 500, and now you have to pay the bill. We have nearly 10,000 immigrants in Milford, 1/3 of our population. And once they figure out that they can vote and nominate their own candidates, Milford will change and never return to what it once was. There's a great cost, and that cost in this budget is someplace in the vicinity of $5 or $6 million, not 200,000, and out of that 42, $5 or $6 million, plus the money that we receive from the state, millions from the federal government. What are we doing about the immigration problem? It's a very simple answer: nothing. But the results on Main Street are available to us every single day.
Okay, I've given you well over a minute. Let's focus on the amount in the budget that you want to delete to dispense with the education of the ELL students.
I would like to use one word that we find very difficult to use, the word no. No, I'm not paying the $5 million for people who violated the law. No, I'm tired of being taken advantage of. I'm made to feel guilty for not letting people take my hard-earned money away from my family. I'm tired of the federal government, the state government, and our local government putting others on my back with their hand in my wallet. And I'm especially tired of those who don't get up in the morning and go to work and support their own families.
Okay, I've let you go too far, Mr. Nero. Please, present something in the budget so we can discuss the amount of money that the Finance Committee has recommended in the school department budget.
About to do that, sir. I'm going to sit down. And I heard that. Thank God. But each of you must decide if you want to pay this school bill. Someone needs to stand up and decide whether they're going to amend this budget of $42 million by $5 million, $200,000, or nothing. Any amount you feel you shouldn't be paying. Or do nothing. That's the simple way out, the easy way out. But I'll tell you one thing. If you sit passively by and pay the bill, you're taking that easy way and inviting more of the same thing. The 10,000 immigrants will grow. The 500 students will grow. And you're saying, come on down to Milford for the free stuff. So I ask you to say no and to have the courage to stand up and reduce this budget by what you feel is your responsibility to educate your own children. Thank you.
We need a motion for an amount of money in the school department budget. Someone want to be recognized? I'm sorry. Mr. Bertarelli? We need some money. That line item was taken out, so we need a motion to appropriate a certain amount of money. All right, a motion has been made to have this the school department 300 line item, the total school department budget be $42,600,000. Any voter care to be heard on that particular line item? Mr. Correa.
Al Correa, Precinct 5. I'll agree to one thing I just heard. Say no to spending any more money than we have to. We just spent months, went through every line item. I didn't see anything we could cut. First of all, we didn't ask for children to be sent here. They were sent because there's families here. But they're here. We don't have a choice, but now they're Milford kids. They bleed Milford red. Okay? You're gonna look at a kid, you're going to educate a kid because he's ours. She is one of us. It's so easy to talk about, do you love your mother? Do you not want to spend money? Problem is, we've seen months and months of very hard analysis and tough choices made to make sure that 42.6 was the best we could get. I believe it. I've seen it. I urge you to trust our school committee, to trust the people who put this budget together. I was not one of them. I had the privilege of shooting darts at it for many months. But I'll tell you, these are our kids. As much as Milford, I always claim, is the center of the universe, we can't dictate immigration policy. The kids are here, they're ours. We're going to educate them in 42.6. Unfortunately, it's a huge number, but it's the right number. I urge you to support all the work that's been done.
Any other voter care to be heard? Mr. Bertarelli. Move the question. All right, Mr. Bertarelli has moved the previous question. Attempt to shut off debate requires a 2/3 vote. I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, the individual precincts will be polled. In no way am I trying to discourage you from voting against moving the previous question, but not just for purposes of speeding up the meeting. All those in favor of moving the previous question manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. All those in favor of moving the previous question rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. All those opposed to moving the previous question rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. Precinct 1. Precinct 1 reports 14 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 2. Precinct 2 reports 18 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 3. Precinct 3 reports 20 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 4. 18 in favor, none opposed in Precinct 4. Precinct 5. Precinct 5, 19 in favor, 1 opposed. Precinct 6. Precinct 6, 20 in favor, 0 opposed. Precinct 7. Precinct 7, 23 in favor, 0 opposed. Precinct 8. Precinct 8, 13 in favor, 1 opposed. At large. At large, 14 in favor, none opposed. 159 having voted in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. The motion to move the previous question is carried. The question now comes upon the motion to have the line item 300 school department budget set at $42,600,000. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Motion is carried. Article 5. Yes, we did.
The motion for Article 4 is still on the table.
No, it isn't. That's the motion that you presented.
Yes, and it was amended.
Remember this one? You know, that after I inquired, then as amended, the meeting shall then consider the items removed separately.
Correct.
But then we voted to pass the entire budget.
Oh,
we did.
Okay. I was going to give you the number, but...
Am I missing? Oh, okay. Article 5.
I move that the town vote to authorize the town treasurer with...
Excuse me 1 second. All right. Let's have the attention of everyone, please.
I move that the town vote to authorize the town treasurer with the approval of the Board of Selectmen to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of the revenue of the financial year beginning July 1, 2015, in accordance with the provisions of the General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 4, and to issue a note or notes, therefore, payable within 1 year, and to renew any note or notes as may be given for a period of less than 1 year in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 17.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to authorize the town treasurer with the approval of the Board of Selectmen to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of the revenue of the financial year beginning July 1, 2015 in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 4, and to issue a note or notes thereof payable within 1 year and to renew any note or notes as may be given for a period of less than 1 year in accordance with the General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 17. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Does any vote care to be heard? Town treasurer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this article is one that requires a town meeting vote annually, and it allows the treasurer to borrow money when the need arises in anticipation of revenue, and I ask for your support.
I should also mention the Board of Selectmen has presented me with their recommendations on the articles that I will indicate their support or their non-support. Any other vote that care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion, which requires a 2/3 vote since there's borrowing involved. I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, then the individual precincts will be polled. All those in favor of the motion manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 6. Selectman Murray.
I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take charge of all legal proceedings for and against the town.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take charge of all legal proceedings for or against the town. Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any voted care to be heard? Selectman Murray.
Ladies and gentlemen, very simple. It does exactly what it says. Gives authority to the Board of Selectmen to handle legal proceedings. Not the microphone, but the legal proceeding.
All those in favor, or any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 7. Selectman Buckley.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to expend from funds received from towns as fines for parking violations during fiscal year 2016, such sum or sum of money are as necessary to pay the cost and expenses of collecting such fines and otherwise complying with the provisions of Section 20A, Chapter 90 of the general laws during this fiscal year.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to expend from funds received by the town as fines for parking violations during fiscal year 2016, such sum or sums of money as are necessary to pay the costs and expenses of collecting such fines and otherwise complying with the provisions of Section 20A of Chapter 90 of the general laws during said fiscal year. The Finance Committee have a recommendation.
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Selectman Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, this simply does exactly what it says, that it lets the Board of Selectmen expend the funds that go towards the collection and the cost of such collections.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 8. Ellie.
I move that the town vote to authorize the town treasurer and/or the tax collector to enter into a compensating balance agreement or agreements for fiscal year 2016 pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53F of the general laws.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to authorize the town treasurer and/or tax collector enter into a compensating balance agreement or agreements for fiscal year 2016 pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 53F of the general laws. The Finance Committee have a recommendation.
Favorable.
Favorable. Does any vote care to be heard?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is another article that requires an annual town meeting vote. It authorizes the treasurer and/or the tax collector to enter into a compensating balance agreement with the local banks, and again, I ask for your support.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 9. Selectman Buckley.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote for fiscal year 2016 to authorize any and all departments to utilize without further appropriation any amounts received from insurance companies or other third parties as damages or payment for damages to any town-owned property for the purposes of repairing or replacing such property as deemed appropriate by the Board of Selectmen, directly depositing such funds to the Municipal Building and Property Insurance Fund established by vote under Article 45 of the June 11, 1990 Annual Town Meeting.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote for fiscal year 2016 to authorize any and all departments to utilize without further appropriation any amounts received from insurance companies or other third parties as damages or payments for damage to any town-owned property for the purpose of repairing or replacing such property or as deemed appropriate by the Board of Selectmen, directly depositing such funds to the Municipal Building and Property Insurance Fund established by vote under Article 45 of the June 11, 1990 Annual Town Meeting. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator. Buckley. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, this simply allows us to make the repairs after collecting funds from insurance companies for things that are needed without further appropriation and coming back to town meeting. I'd urge your support. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 10. Selectman Kincaid.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to authorize all persons, boards, or agencies of the town otherwise authorized to contract for or on behalf of the town during fiscal year 2016 to enter into such contracts or agreements for up to 5 years, except in the case of contracts or agreements dealing with real estate, which may be up for 10 years.
Motion made and seconded, the town vote to authorize all persons, boards, or agencies of the town otherwise authorized to contract for on behalf of the town during fiscal year 2016 to enter into such contracts or agreements for up to 5 years, except in the case of contracts or agreements dealing with real estate, which may be for up to 10 years. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Selectman Kincaid.
This is another annual recurring vote and is made necessary by the provisions of the Uniform Procurement Act. By that act, unless there is a town meeting vote, all contracts are limited to a duration of 3 years. In Milford, like many towns, departments frequently enter into contracts for up to 5 years and up to 10 years for real estate leases. The ability to do this is important because contracts such as those for rentals or copying machines, vehicles, and the like must, of necessity by virtue of the industry, be up for 5 years.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 11. Selectman Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, I move that the town vote for the fiscal year 2016 and thereafter to accept the provisions of Section 5C 1/2 of Chapter 59 of the General Laws and to approve any additional exemption up to 100% of the current allowed exemptions for all eligible real estate tax exemptions under General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5.
Motion made and seconded, the town vote for fiscal year 2016 and thereafter to accept the provisions of Section 5C 1/2 of Chapter 59 of the General Laws and to approve an additional exemption of up to 100% of the currently allowed exemptions for all eligible real estate tax exemptions under General Laws Chapter 59, Section 5. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Selectman Buckley.
Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members. This article is first proposed and passed in fiscal year 2000. It simply authorizes the town to approve 50% increase in allowed exemptions for elderly, veterans, and the blind. This year, we are recommending it increase to the allowable 100%. The cost of this to the town is $50,630.88, with the breakdowns as follows. Elderly cost 100% additional is a total of $17,357.79. Those that are 100% veteran disabled, an additional $5,116.50. All other veterans with disability total $27,265.08, and with those that are blind, an additional $891. For a total of $50,630.88. This is the law that allows the maximum increase, and I'd urge your support. Thank you very much.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 12. Kelly.
I move that the town vote to authorize the town treasurer to accept deeds in lieu of foreclosure pursuant to Chapter 60, Section 77C of the Massachusetts General Laws.
Motion made and seconded, the town vote to authorize the town treasurer to accept deeds in lieu of foreclosure pursuant to Chapter 60, Section 77C of the Massachusetts General Laws. Finance Committee recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Kelly?
Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, this is yet another article that is presented annually for a town meeting vote. It allows the treasurer to expedite the foreclosure process by accepting a deed in lieu of foreclosure. The process has proven to be efficient and more cost-effective, and your support would be appreciated.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 13. Town Council Moody.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to transfer from the excess and deficiency account the sum of $5,784.71, consistent with the funds raised from vending machines in the Milford School District, to be spent under the jurisdiction of the school committee for purposes of student activities not funded in the school department budget.
Motion made and second, the town vote to transfer from the excess and deficiency account the sum of $5,784.71, consistent with the funds raised from vending machines in the Milford School District, to be spent under the jurisdiction of the school committee for purposes of student activities not funded in the school department budget. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Town Council Moody.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, as you see, this is becoming an annual vote, and if you recall from prior meetings, these are funds from the vending machines which have always been utilized for student activities. But a number of years ago, it was determined that the proper methodology was to pay that money into the general fund and then come back to this body at the end of the year to put the money, make it available for the student activities account. So I urge your support.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 14. Town Council Moody.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to establish revolving funds for certain town departments under General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2015, with the specific receipts credited to each fund for the purposes for which each fund may be spent, and the maximum amount that may be spent from each fund for the fiscal year as follows.
A motion made and seconded. We waive the reading of the remainder of the motion if it's exactly as appears in the warrant. All right. Everyone has a copy of the Article 14 and the various revolving fund accounts. All right. Any vote care to be heard in the motion to dispense with the reading of the remainder of the motion? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Town Council Moody.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this again is an annual vote, as you know, and we consolidated some years ago all these 6 separate votes into one to make it a little bit more efficient. This is precisely as it was last year. The funds are the same, the authorizations are the same, the revenue sources are the same, and the spending limits are exactly the same as they were last year, and they've worked well, and the Finance Committee has approved, so I urge your support.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 15. Selectman Kincaid.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute an easement for utility purposes to the Massachusetts Electric Company, said easement to be utilized to establish an underground system in, through, under, over, and across those parcels of land situated on the southerly side of North Vine Street, being more particularly shown as parcels 1 through 4, inclusive on a plan of land recorded in the Worcester District Registry of Deeds at Plan Book 304, Plan 107, and being the site of the Woodland School.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute an easement for utility purposes to the Massachusetts Electric Company. Said easement to be utilized to establish an underground system in, through, under, over, and across those parcels of land situated on the southerly side of North Vine Street, being more particularly shown as parcels 1 through 4, inclusive on a plan of land recorded in the Worcester District Registry of Deeds at Plan Book 304, Plan 107, and being the site of the Woodland School. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Selectman Kincaid.
This article authorizes the Board of Selectmen to execute an easement for utility purposes to Mass Electric to provide an underground system for the new Woodland School. This is needed to provide service to the Woodland School upon completion of the project. Thank you.
Does any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. Since it involves an easement in land, it requires a 2/3 vote. I'll take a voice vote. If that's not unanimous, then the individual precincts will be polled. All those in favor of the motion manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 16, Selectman Murray.
I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute an easement for utility purposes to the Massachusetts Electric Company, said easement to be utilized to establish an underground system in, through, under, over, and across the parcel of land on Pearl Street owned by the town of Milford and occupied by the Milford Youth Center facility.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute an easement for utility purposes to the Massachusetts Electric Company. Said easement to be utilized to establish an underground system in, through, under, over, and across the parcel of land on Pearl Street owned by the town of Milford and occupied by the Milford Youth Center facilities. The Finance Committee have a recommendation.
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Selectman Murray.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, like the previous article, this is necessary to provide electrical service to the renovated youth center once completed.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion. Again, an interest in land requiring the two-thirds vote. I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, then the individual precincts will be polled. All those in favor of the motion manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 17. Town Council Moody.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $60,000 from the excess and deficiency account, said sum to be utilized together with funds voted under Article 16 of the October 21st, 2013 special town meeting for purposes of retaining consultants and other expert services to evaluate and represent the town's interest in acquisition of the Milford Water Company.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to transfer the sum of $60,000 from the excess and deficiency account, said sum to be utilized together with funds voted under Article 16 of the October 21, 2013 special town meeting for purposes of retaining consultants and other expert services to evaluate and represent the town's interest in acquisition of the Milford Water Company. Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Town Council Moody.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is a continuation of what you recall of your efforts, our efforts to evaluate, fully evaluate whether or not it's time to acquire the Milford Water Company. I really don't need to go through the history with you on that, but the appropriation that you provided back in 2013, we've utilized. We've had a full and complete and detailed evaluation of the company and the question of whether or not the town can afford it. And with certain assumptions, it is apparent that the town can afford to do it. A lot's going to depend upon the price, of course, and the statute that we're dealing with, the 1881 statute, provides a system for acquiring the water company. If we can't reach agreement with the company, then, of course, if you recall, it goes to the DPU for evaluation and decision. Discussions with the company have been cordial but have not been fruitful. We've actually passed special legislation over the course of this past year, which you might be aware of, which will facilitate matters for us and make sure that we can get a fair hearing before the DPU, before we actually have to take a vote, because the body that will make the final decision on this, perhaps one of the most important decisions made in many, many years, will be this body by a two-thirds vote. So if we reach agreement with the water company on a price, it'll come to this body for a two-thirds vote in full consideration. If we have to go to the Department of Public Utilities, which is what we anticipate will have to happen now, and thus the need for these funds, the decision that comes out of the DPU finally will still have to come back to this body for a two-thirds vote to determine whether or not we really can afford it. But we're in a situation, I think, based upon the history with the company and the water problems in this town and the somewhat incredible price increases that take place, that we can't afford not to fully evaluate it and take it to at least to the point where we can come back to you for a good decision. So the Board of Selectmen and myself and others strongly urge your support on this article.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Article 18. Mr. Crisafulli.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000, said sum to be spent under the jurisdiction of the highway surveyor for the purpose of continued stormwater mapping.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000, said sum to be spent under the jurisdiction of the highway surveyor for the purpose of continued stormwater mapping. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, the need for this article is for the continued implementation of Milford's ongoing stormwater management program. The amount we are requesting is for the continuation of the stormwater mapping program to meet the expectations of the EPA's new stormwater permit. Therefore, I urge favorable support on this article. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All those opposed? No. All those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Article 19. Scott?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 to be spent under the jurisdiction of the highway surveyor for the purpose of purchasing 2 new leaf pickup machines.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 to be spent under the jurisdiction of the highway surveyor for the purpose of purchasing 2 new leaf pickup machines. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Scott?
Thank you. Town meeting members, the leaf pickup program is entering its 15th year. When the program began in 2001, we were picking up approximately 5,000 cubic yards of leaves. Today, the program has grown to over 10,000 cubic yards of leaves per season. The machines we're using now was designed, to do the process in 5 weeks. We're now 7 to 8 weeks into it, into the snow season, basically. We've been lucky we haven't had to handle big storms in the middle of it. The current machines are not designed to pick up leaves, but were retrofitted to work. They are actually catch basin cleaners. They are very inefficient, slow, and in need of complete costly rebuilds to keep up with the demand of the leaves. The new machines are designed to pick up leaves only. They're specifically designed just for that reason. They're smaller, lighter, quicker, carry more leaves, and are much more efficient, use less fuel. They're just very well-designed machines. Another important benefit is to operate these new machines, it only takes 1 employee. It's a 1-man operation. Right now, it's a 3-man operation. So we can use the employees on stuff we need to do on roads and other projects we have going on. The leaf pickup program is an important part of the stormwater compliance permit and needs to be continued. Therefore, I ask for your support on this article. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is carried unanimously. Article 20. Mr. McCarthy.
Members of the town meeting members, and I move Article 20, I move that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaw by rezoning the following parcels from RB Single Family Residential District and or IB Highway Industrial District to CB Neighborhood Commercial District. Assessors Map 43, Block O, lots 51, 61, 61A, 62A, 62B, and 63. The 6th parcel refers within total approximately 8.7 acres in the area and are located in the vicinity of 55 Medway Street.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to amend the zoning bylaw by rezoning the following parcels from RB Single Family Residential District and or IB Highway Industrial District to CB Neighborhood Commercial District. Assessors Map 43, Block 0, lots 51, 61, 61A, 62A, 62B, and 63. The 6 parcels referenced herein total approximately 8.7 acres in area and are located in the vicinity of 55 Medway Street. Finance Committee?
Favorable.
Favorable. Does the Planning Board have a report?
Pursuant, Planning Board met May 18th. Today is May 18th. Pursuant to the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 5, the Milford Planning Board conducted a duly posted and noticed public hearing on April 21st, 2015, regarding the subject of Article 20, at which time it was voted unanimously to make a favorable recommendation to the town meeting. Article 20 amends the zoning bylaw by rezoning the CB Neighborhood Commercial District approximately 8.7 acres in the vicinity of 55 Medway Street. The Planning Board recommends the adoption of Article 20 as printed in the warrant.
Does any other voter care to be heard? Lena.
The Planning Board is proposing Article 20 to accommodate redevelopment proposal in the vicinity of 55 Medway Street. The rezoning of the CB neighborhood commercial will eliminate the pattern of conflicting residential and industrial districts in this area and establish a consistent racial scheme on the zoning map. Currently, the zoning in this area has no corroboration to either existing or proposed development patterns. The IB industrial zone in this vicinity is a remnant of the former zoning in a surrounding area of the residential zoning and even splits one property. The proposed amendment will expand the economic development potential for this area by establishing an 8.7 CB commercial zone for the entire frontage of south side of Medway Street, from Maria's Restaurant westward to include the entire Amello Restaurant property. The Planning Board recommends you adopt this Article 20 as printed in the warrant. The Alamo property. There is a map to my left of the whole area if anyone wants to check that out.
Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion, which is an amendment to the zoning bylaw and requires a 2/3 vote. Since no one has spoken in opposition, I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, then the individual precincts will be polled. Again, I'm not trying to influence your vote, but just for purposes that no one has spoken in opposition. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 21. Mr. McCarthy.
Mr. Moderator, members of the town meeting.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes. I know, I'm just thinking a minute. I move that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaw relating to the farmers market used as a noted hereinafter by adding section 2.3.
Motion made to dispense with the reading of the remainder of the motions if it's exactly as appears in the warrant. Is it exactly as appears in the warrant, Lena?
Yes, it is.
It is. Does any voter care to be heard on the motion to dispense with the reading of the remainder of the motion since it is exactly as appears in the warrant? All those in favor of the dispensing manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the Planning Board have a report?
Pursuant to the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the Milford Planning Board conducted a duly posted and noticed public hearing on April 12, 2015, regarding the subject of Article 21, at which time it voted unanimously to make a favorable recommendation to the town meeting. Article 21 amends the zoning bylaw by providing for farmers markets as special permit uses in the RA general residential. The Planning Board recommends the adoption of Article 21 as printed in the warrant.
Does any voter care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator?
Lena.
Yep. Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, the Planning Board is proposing Article 21 to accommodate farmers markets in certain limited residential locations. Because farmers markets are classified as commercial use that are allowed in most commercial and all other industrial zoning districts, it has been determined that an appropriate way to allow for them in residential area is to establish a special permitting mechanism in the zoning bylaw. Since the primary alternative locations for the farmers markets are located in an RA general residential district, the zoning amendment has been crafted to provide for the via special permit and site plan review. The Planning Board recommends your adoption of Article 21 as printed in the warrant.
Any other vote care to be heard? Finance Committee have a recommendation? Favorable. Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented, which is an amendment to our zoning bylaw, and again requires a 2/3 vote. I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, the individual precincts will be polled. All those in favor of the motion manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 22, Chief.
Slightly taller. Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $100,000 from the excess and deficiency account, said sum to be utilized as reserve funds for the future payment of accrued liabilities for compensated absences due any employee of the fire department or police department upon termination of an employee's employment.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to transfer the sum of $100,000 from the excess and deficiency account, said sum to be utilized as reserve funds for future payments of accrued liabilities for compensated absences due any employees of the fire department or police department upon termination of employees' employment. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard, Chief?
Mr. Moderator. Tom O'Laughlin, Police Chief, Precinct 5. In the 2013 special town meeting, Article 24, town meeting funded $100,000. These funds are utilized to pay police officers and firefighters upon their retirement for accrued vacation that they may have, as well as some of them still get sick leave buyback pursuant to contractual agreements. Those funds have been fully expended with the retirements of several firefighters and a couple of police officers.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 23. Town Council Moody.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to discontinue as a public way and in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 82, Section 21, public way known as Orange Slip Extension, which was accepted as and for a public way by vote under Article 27 of the May 18, 2009 annual town meeting. The area being discontinued being more fully described as follows. Legal description of Orange Slip Extension from Station 0+00 to Station 1+00.83. Length to be accepted, 100.83 feet. Beginning at a railroad spike on the southwesterly side of said Orange Slip at Lot 1.
Okay, well, motion to waive the reading of the legal description. Any vote care to be heard in the motion to waive the reading of the legal description? If not, question comes upon motion to waive the reading of the legal description. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Planning Board have a report on this? Yes. Favorable report from the Planning Board. Any vote care to be heard? Town Council Moody.
Ladies and gentlemen, I presume you all know where Orange Slip is, and a few years ago an extension was accepted by this body, which would have ended in a cul-de-sac. But in the interim, the Milford Hospital's development plans have gone on, as you all may know. It's quite a development. It's under construction right now. They've acquired the land completely surrounding this Orange Slip extension, so it simply serves no purpose anymore. The hospital, being the abutter on all sides, owns to the center line, so it makes perfect sense to discontinue at this time so the hospital can properly use it as part of their development.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is carried unanimously. Article 24. Is that Mr. Pettinari in the back there? Selectman Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members. I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the legislature for special legislation to provide for the grant of an additional license for the sale of malt beverages and wine, not to be drunk on premises, which, such as a package store, which legislation shall provide substantially as follows.
A motion made and secondly to dispense with the reading of the text of Article 24, or the motion under Article 24. If it's exactly as appears in the warrant, is it, Selectman Buckley?
It is, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, any vote care to be heard? The motion to dispense? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is carried. Any other vote care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator.
Selectman Buckley?
This article authorizes the Board of Selectmen to seek special legislation to provide additional license for the sale of malt beverages and wine not to be drunk on premises. It also grants the licensing authority, or prevents the licensing authority from transferring that license to an additional location or a different location. This license would be granted to Water Street Meat Market, LLC, of 3 Water Street in Milford. And I'd urge your support. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? Yes, Attorney Pettinari.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, my name is Ernie Pettinari. I'm a lawyer here in the town of Milford. My office is located at 12 Main Street. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the article that was just read by Selectman Buckley. Veterans of town meeting who've been around a while have seen these kinds of articles before. They would authorize the town, acting through its Board of Selectmen, to request an additional license for the sale of packaged beer and wine, not to be drunk on the premises. The reason that the action of the town meeting is necessary is because Massachusetts has a fairly outmoded system of regulating their alcoholic beverage licenses, which are based on population. So without the action of the town meeting, Milford is actually 4 of these kinds of licenses over the quota. Again, veterans of town meeting have seen these articles in the past. Those 4 premises which are currently licensed were licensed as a direct result of town meeting action. Tonight I'm here to speak on behalf of Lisa Braza Carnero and her husband Fred. They own and operate the Water Street Meat Market, which is located at 3 Water Street in Milford. They purchased the property a couple of years ago. They've invested a substantial amount of effort, time, and capital in the process. They've made a firm commitment to the town of Milford, to the Main Street economic community, and they are here tonight because over the last few years, as they've been operating their business, several people have asked them about the possibility of offering the sale of wines and beers. They have a limited need for the license. They're not looking to establish a large kind of store. They want to offer specialty wines, most of them European type wines, for use in connection with their meat market, and to offer the sale of beer in their store. The shelf space is probably about 80 square feet, but it would give them the ability to respond to the interest that many of their customers have expressed. Briefly, as Selectman Buckley mentioned, the quota system that's in place is in place because of the population of the town of Milford. Milford would be limited to 6 beer and wine licenses. Milford currently has 10 outstanding. Your vote tonight would authorize the Board of Selectmen to ask the state to issue 1 more for specific use in connection with the Water Street Meat Market. And it would also then require that the Board of Selectmen have a public hearing and go through that entire process to evaluate the application and make a determination that, in fact, the premises and the applicant are suitable. We believe they are. They've made, again, a substantial investment in the community and in the facility that they own and operate on Water Street. We're here tonight to ask you to join in our support for them and in turn, their support for the town of Milford. I think you're aware of the many years of service that the Braza family has given to the town of Milford. Their record of philanthropy and charitable involvement is second to none. Fred Carnero, Lisa's husband, is a fine young man, hardworking person. The business is entirely family run. Everything that goes on in that building is something that they're aware of and they personally control. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we're here tonight to ask for your blessing on their application process so they can engage in the next level of the application and ask the Board of Selectmen for a beer and wine license only to be used in connection with their operation of the meat market on Water Street. Thank you.
Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Refer to sponsor.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 25. Chief.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, Mark Nelson, Precinct 7. I move that the town vote to reallocate funds remaining in Fire Department account number 5220585893, fuel pumps, Birch Street, currently in the amount of $21,924.80. Said funds to be available to the fire chief to be utilized to continue testing and repairs to the Birch Street training building.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to reallocate funds remaining in Fire Department account number 5220-5858-93, fuel pumps / Birch Street, currently in the amount of $21,924.80. Said funds to be available to the fire chief to be utilized to continue testing and repairs to the Birch Street training building. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Mr. Nelson, you're not chief yet. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, the fuel pump replacement's complete at the Birch Street Fire Station, and the fire department wants to use the remaining funds to continue assessment and make repairs on the training building. We hope for your support. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 26. Selectman Murray.
I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for the enactment of special legislation which would authorize the creation of a municipal finance department, in which legislation would provide substantially as follows.
Motion made and seconded that we dispense with the reading of the text if it is exactly as appears in the warrant. Is it, Brian?
Yes, Mr. Moderator.
It is. Any vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense with the reading. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Selectman Murray.
Ladies and gentlemen, this actually formalizes much of what goes on right now through the various department heads, boards, Finance Committee during the budget formulation which was presented to you this evening. We would be creating in a formal manner the position of Finance Director to be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Responsible to the Finance Director would be a treasurer, the accountant, a benefits coordinator, and the tax collector. Now, again, these appointments would be through the article would be the removal of the tax collector from an elected position to an appointed position by the Board of Selectmen. Keep in mind, however, that that position is collector's office. But I think more significantly for the citizens and the voters of the town of Milford, it clearly places the onus for performance in the town hall upon the Board of Selectmen. Much like a police department or a fire department, the chain of command is clear. If there's a problem with an officer or a fireman, we don't look to dig through those different layers. We go right to the chief. That's where the buck stops, and that's where it would be with Town Hall. And I think if you look at what happened with the treasurer position, that was also taken from the elected and made into an appointed position, and the Board of Selectmen did go through a process. There was a hire. Unfortunately, that hire did not work out. However, the board was able to recognize the situation and take action very quickly, and that person no longer works for the town of Milford, and we're taking other steps beyond that. So accountability clearly would lie with the Board of Selectmen, and I think that puts responsibility on the board to make the best appointment that we possibly can. And that's the goal that we would have with the collector position, and similar to the treasurer position that occurred. The financial structure of this proposal would call for the removal of a clerk at the accounting office, the removal of a clerk at the present treasurer's office. The tax collector's office would essentially stay as is. A benefits coordinator would be added with an assistant and a clerk. Through all the shuffling, the net increase would be $42,000. There is no increase to the town accountant's pay, and the present town accountant would be appointed to the position of the finance director. This structure was recommended to the town of Milford through our annual auditing firm. They feel with a budget in a town of our size, this is the proper structure to have in place to, again, assure accountability and streamline operations. So I'd ask for your support.
Any other vote care to be heard? Mr. Visconti.
I move to amend the previous article in the following way. Strike the words tax collector entirely from section 4.
The amendment to the motion proposed by Mr. Visconti is to strike the words tax collector entirely from section 4.
In addition to establishing the finance director's position and reestablishing the hierarchy of order and overseeing of our finances, it will seek to change the tax collector's position from an elected position to an appointed position. Also, as indicated by the previous speaker, town treasurers who did a phenomenal job in the position, both elected by the people. I don't have to tell you what happened to the town treasurer that was appointed. We are slowly but surely diminishing the responsibility of the voters to take charge of their government. We cannot continue to take we cannot continue to take this away from the voters. I urge you to approve the amendment to this motion. It will not diminish the essence or the spirit of the article in any way. The only thing it will do is it will keep the tax collector's position as an elected position by which the voters of Milford can elect who they want to be the tax collector and run their own government. Please, vote favorably on the motion to amend. Thank you.
I have a problem with the amendment, Mr. Visconti. I know you've spent some time studying this, but if we delete the word tax collector, we're going to have section 4 read, upon the effective date of this act, the position of elected in Milford shall be abolished. You haven't defined it. I think it needs more work as far as taking some of the other words out of that section. I know that, maybe give you a couple minutes to decide. Again, it just doesn't read properly. If you just take another sentence would be the town treasurer and shall, subject to appropriation, maintain the same salary and benefits. So,
okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm a little embarrassed that has happened. I take pretty good care of making sure everything is in order. But I will take a minute, take a look at it, and if need be, I will ask to rise again. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Therefore, I've declared that out of order in the sense that the amendment was presented. Is any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as originally presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Article 27. Selectman Kincaid.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $35,000 from the excess and deficiency account, said sum to be utilized together with those funds appropriated under Article 22 of the October 20th, 2014 special town meeting to fund a contract for the town hall roof gutter replacement project.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to transfer the sum of $35,000 from the excess and deficiency account, said sum to be utilized together with those funds appropriated under Article 22 of the October 20, 2014 special town meeting to fund a contract for the town hall roof/gutter replacement project. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Selectman Kincaid.
This article seeks to authorize the town to appropriate the sum of $35,000 to be used in conjunction with the appropriation of $264,000 made at the October 2014 special town meeting to replace the town hall gutters and related work. At the October 2014 special town meeting, the sum of $264,000 was appropriated to replace the gutters, aprons, downspouts for the town hall roof, and to install a heat melt system over 3 of the entrances. In early 2015, the project was put out to bid. The cost estimate provided by our designer was $200,000. The lowest eligible bid was $261,000, and this bidder had agreed to hold their bid for 90 days. The cost of the design and construction and administration, including some lead-based paint sampling, was approximately $11,000. This leaves a sum of $254,000 in the appropriation. In order to award the contract, including a 10% construction contingency, we will need an additional $35,000. In order to award the contract and carry a reasonable contingency, we need to appropriate these additional funds so that we can complete this important project. I ask for your support.
Does any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 28. Selectman Buckley.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to amend Article 3.9 sign regulations of the zoning bylaw by adding a new 3.9.1.4E as follows. Signs erected and maintained on publicly owned or operated athletic field facilities to the extent authorized and approved by such board or agencies with the jurisdiction over such facilities.
Motion made and seconded that the town vote to amend Article 3.9 sign regulations of the zoning bylaw by adding a new 3.9.1.4E as follows. 3.9.1.4E, signs erected and maintained on publicly owned or operated athletic field facilities to the extent authorized and approved by such board or agency with jurisdiction over such facilities. Does the planning board have a report? I'm sorry? Okay, why don't we present it right now then?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, pursuant to the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 5, the Milford Planning Board conducted a duly posted and noticed public hearing on April 12, 2015 regarding the subject of Article 28, at which time a vote of 4 in favor, 1 opposed, to make a favorable recommendation to the town meeting. Article 28 amends the zoning bylaw by providing for signs on town athletic fields. The Planning Board recommends the adoption of Article 28 as presented in the warrant.
Is there any other vote that care to be heard? Selectman Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, for as long as I can remember, the land adjacent to Tank Field could always be used for signs. It could be used by community groups such as Milford Girls Softball, some of the baseball teams. Oh, this microphone is interesting. It was also used by theater groups when theater groups went to put on plays up at the high school. Recently, as a result of enforcement actions by the building department, we've come into a situation where we're selectively enforcing. That means that at certain fields, the sign bylaws are not being followed, and at other fields they are. This article seeks to amend Article 3.9 sign regulations of the zoning bylaw, which allows for a new section that will allow permitted signs to be erected and maintained on publicly owned as well as publicly operated or controlled locations. And it'll be designated to the group responsible for that property, so the board or agency with jurisdiction over that property, to approve and create the controls for those signs. That would mean specifically the duration that they're allowed to be up, the size of those locations, and for the many things that people might want to say should be more specific here. What we're allowing for in this vote is to allow for that body or that group, in the case of Parks Department, for a park to make that designation and to control it themselves. It would get out of the selective enforcement business we're in today, which is not a good place to be, and it allow for those groups to communicate to the public their sign-ups or that play or whatever, and still be charitable in that regard to utilize that property. So, for example, the signs at the Milford Athletic Field, such as Rosenfeld Park, could be controlled signs, designated as controlled, allowed by the Parks Department, which currently don't conform to the bylaws. We're not proposing that any of that change, but that the Parks Department control the signs at Rosenfeld Park, for example, those within the park that are hanging on the fence facing the batter. So this will result in the promotion of activities and events sponsored by our youth and organizations and other local groups, which play a significant role in our community, continue to be able to advertise, but under the control of parks or whichever group is controlling that field or that area. I'd urge your support. Thank you very much.
Any other vote care to be heard? Mr. Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Visconti, town meeting member from Precinct 8. It's costing the taxpayers of Milford around $500,000 plus or minus to bring our splintered IT departments together under one roof and have it controlled by one person so that everybody is on par and working in the same direction. Right now, or it has been, where each department has different IT requirements, and they're kind of off on their own doing certain things. So it's costing us only about $500,000 now to correct that situation. What this article seeks to do is to take a well-oiled and well-run building department and zoning enforcement department and splinter it the way our IT department is splintered now and costing taxpayers $500,000 to get it corrected. Why would we want to splinter the zoning enforcement department by approving this article and have different departments decide what kind of signs they want and where they want to be placed? Do we think that these banners and haphazard signs attached to fences, blowing in the breeze, laying on the ground, remaining up for weeks after the event has occurred, is that the kind of image we want to portray in this town? I don't think so. Let's leave the sign enforcement in the hands of our zoning enforcement department and zoning enforcement officer. Everybody is treated equally. There is no selective enforcement. There's a zoning bylaw for signs. You either comply or you don't. The selective enforcement comes in when our building department is told, let them alone, get that sign down. There's where the selective enforcement comes in. Let our building department do their job and control the sign and maintain our current zoning laws as they relate to signs. Please defeat this article. Thank you.
Any other voter care to be heard? Mr. Calagione.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members. Joe Calagione, Precinct 7. And just to be clear, those people that know me, I'm also on the planning board, and I happen to be the one person that voted against this article at the planning board. And I'm against this article for a number of reasons. The zoning law has governed the development of land, and in the case of the sign section of the bylaw, to limit the impact on abutting properties and to preserve the character of the community. This change to the bylaw eliminates the governance of what is referred to as portable signs on town-owned or leased athletic fields. And I want to make that clear. Selectman Buckley misspoke previously when he talked about permanent signs. This section of the bylaw only deals with what is called portable signs, so they're temporary signs. My first issue with it is that we're placing the town in a different category than all other property owners. I don't believe that the town should be granted this status. As a matter of fact, in the past, a former member of the Board of Selectmen was very interested about the banner signs that are in Main Street and trying to limit those. Yet here we are going and saying that the town should be allowed to put banner signs up on athletic facilities. I don't believe that's right. The Park Department and the School Committee will need to govern these signs. Town Council at our public hearing indicated, and I'm quoting from the Milford Daily News, this revision effectively holds the boards that govern the fields accountable. I hope they make rational decisions on what kind of signs they allow or do not. Since the 1940s, the town has realized the need for zoning requirements, and now we want to go back to hoping that a board makes the proper decision. I don't believe that's right. It also appears to me now that we'll be making decisions on how we vote for park commissioners and school committee members on what their feelings are on portable signs. I think both of those boards have much more important issues to do, and that the electorate should be talking about other issues than how people stand on portable signs. This brings me to my next point. The bylaw changes a section that will no longer need to come to town meeting. As you've heard from many of all of the zoning articles, the planning board is required to hold a public meeting for any of these changes. These changes will now happen yearly. It could happen in any meeting of the park department or the school committee that they want to change whatever they set up as a regulation. I don't believe that process is correct. And my last point, and what I believe is most important, as I indicated earlier, this change allows the school department and the park department, as the agency with jurisdiction, to institute whatever requirements they see fit. I believe that these requirements should be consistent and should take into account the abutting property owners. And because most, if not all, of the locations in question fall into residential neighborhoods, I believe the town citizens that abut these fields deserve more. They should not have to wonder each year how big or how long that sign across the street is going to be up. The proper way for this section of the bylaw to be amended is to have a public hearing where we can truly evaluate the need for these signs, and if warranted, how large and how long they should be allowed to stay up. The people abutting these locations and the town citizens in general deserve more than what this bylaw is providing. As a matter of fact, I've asked the planning board chairman to, on our next public meeting, to put on a sign discussion so that we can start the process of amending this bylaw correctly, but this isn't the way to do it.
Any other vote care to be heard? Selectman Buckley.
So I would respectfully disagree with the previous speaker in that I would say that when we elect town officials, we elect them with good judgment, and we can always approach them after. I know that when there was an issue at the school department, for example, with the lighting at the new field, the school department immediately responded to neighbors. So I'm not worried that the school department or the parks department are going to suddenly make bad neighbors. What I'd like to do in this article, and I think what this article seeks to do, is it seeks to provide exactly the governance that we've not seen over many, many years. And I think the situation that we've talked about is not one, or that was just spoken about, is not one that we want to see maintained, but essentially some control placed over it. So we're talking about the size of signs, their location, how long they're up, which has not been governed. I don't think this body or any other body seeks to prevent the Milford Girls Softball League or Milford Baseball from advertising its sign-ups, or the theater groups. I don't think that's the intent at all, and I don't think that's the intent of our governance, no matter how good or how bad it is in terms of our bylaws. I don't hear that from this body, and I've not heard that from any constituents. With respect to public hearing, what greater public hearing do we have than the public hearing that we have today, going over this discussion with town meeting? I would say this is as vetted as any public hearing that any planning board has ever held in terms of the amount of people that are here and the amount of people who have responsibility and authority to make these decisions. This is in the public, and I would submit to support this article. I ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Any other vote care to be heard? Yes, Mrs. Bontempo.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I am not a town meeting member. I reside in Precinct 4 at 3 West Walnut Street. I did attend the Planning Board meeting of April 12th. And if I remember correctly, the vote was 3-1, as one of the members was not present. I will not quote from the zoning bylaws of October 20th, 2014, but one section states, "No signs shall be placed within a public way or a public property, meaning town-owned property, except with a permit from the Board of Selectmen. A perfectly accepted bylaw. This permit is issued by the building commissioner. You have in the zoning bylaw concerning signs. And what does a sign do? A sign informs. In the town sign bylaws, you have sections RA, RB, RC, RD, whatever that means. Then we have districts of CA, CB, CC, IA, and TB. Number 3.9.24 states, the total area of all signs either attached to a building or freestanding shall not amount to more than 4 square feet per foot of lot frontage on the street towards which the sign is orientated. If you do not have a permit, your sign is illegal. And ignorance of the law is no excuse. And honoring the bylaw is very important. The current bylaw does not allow signs on towns' athletic fields. I can remember 3-4 years ago, huge signs inside Pheno Field on the fence, and I don't know how many times with the elements that come off of the Charles River, the wind and the rain, those signs were on the ground. And somebody paid good money for those signs. Rosenfeld, Town Park, Tank Field, 5 acres owned by the Milford Water Company. Through an arrangement with the town of Milford, under the auspices of the Parks Department, we have enjoyed the use of that field. First, it was donated, it was supposed to be just a playground. And then as the town expanded, the need for athletic fields with the growing population, plus the sport of soccer that just burst on the scene. And they needed more space. And you don't need money to play soccer. All you need is a ball and the desire to kick it. 1950, the town erected the fence around Tank Field. We all know the location, and this is my point of contention. As all of the previous speakers have spoken about Tank Field, it almost has a carnival atmosphere, because any sign that is put up on Tank Field needs a permit. Just have to call the town clerk's office. Any one of those lovely ladies will direct you to the building inspector, and he will give you all the regulations for that sign. I am not exaggerating by saying that it is a distracting intersection. by Tank Field. And in this new bylaw that is being proposed, there's nothing in depth that enumerates what type of signs have gone up. I've seen signs made out of plywood, cardboard that is not even legible, even if you're the first car parked at the light at that intersection of Congress Fountain and West Fountain. Consistency and great oversight from any department that manages these signs, whether they're on athletic fields or they're on tank field, is definitely needed. Signs and the bylaw are supposed to be regulated and control signs with reasonable and clearly expressed wording, hopefully to augment our environment. Louisa Lake / Kiwanis Park is not an athletic field. It's a park. And there have been signs, banners on the fence, the chain link fence by the dam that are up, still up, with no permit. So they are illegal. I have no problem with putting up the signs, as the previous speaker, Mr. Calagione, stated, that are put up even a month before the event. I can understand that. I'll just give you an example of how long it takes for that sign to come down. The National Honor Society at Milford High put on a wonderful, an absolutely wonderful prom for the senior citizens of Milford. The event was April 9th. The sign was put up a week before that. The sign came down April 28th. When my inquiries went unanswered, nobody knew who put up the sign. Who is going to enforce these new regulations? I think I use the term selective enforcement. The building inspector has the right, has the power, when anyone calls his office and complains about an illegal sign, he should remove it and not be put up to ridicule. Enforcement, that is the key word. I thank you for your attention.
Any other voter care to be heard? Mr. Consigli.
My name is David Consigli, member at large, chairman of the zoning board. With all due respect with the planning board and the board of selectmen, you have to remember that every one of us probably played ball on one of these fields when we grew up. There weren't signs then, but also the sport utilities in the schools now have challenging issues with trying to raise money and fees that don't get covered in standard sports or programs. I spent 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 6 months at Pheno Field, finishing the dugouts physically myself, helping raise money, building the new snack stand, all for the sports and the youths of this community. All just because I love the community and I love the sports. No signs on fences back then. Today it's a little bit more difficult and more challenging. We now have a beautiful facility at Milford High School. Are we going to be putting signs on those fences to raise funds for those programs? We have t-ball, football, Pop Warner, soccer, high school junior varsity, seniors, lacrosse. We have so many sports programs in this community. Every single one of them are fighting for the same dollar and for the same 3 by 4 foot section on the fence. So how do we regulate it? We tell the Parks Department, okay, you've got this month to put up 17 banners, 3 by 5 on the fence, and don't come to us if you cut your finger with the wires of the fence. So we end up with a liability issue possibly. This is not something as simple as everybody thinks it is. I believe all departments can get together, come up with some form of a mechanism that will benefit the youth of this, the youth of the community, and have them also raise their funds. I've been down at Rosenfeld Park in the winter. Sometimes I'll park down there, grab the paper, grab an article at lunchtime. The signs are still up and on those fences. So is there regulation that needs to occur? Yes. Is there support that needs to be done to support the sports and the schools that try to promote these banners to raise funds for their programs? Yes. But there's got to be a mechanism where we all can work together to make it happen, and make it happen in coordination properly, and not depend on one department, whether it's the Little League president, to make sure that those signs come down after a month so a new set of signs can go back up, and what size they are. Not a 6-foot wide banner, then 2 by 2 foot banners. So as easy as we want to make this, it's not as easy as it really is because of our sign bylaw. So giving carte blanche to someone, with all due respect, to a Parks Department or to the director of the president of the Little League, no offense either, it just needs to be coordinated properly in the right mechanism and proactively, not fighting on town meeting floor like this. Thank you.
Any other voter care to be heard? Town Council Moody.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, if I can just refocus this for a moment. The primary focus of this change was really brought about by two situations. And one is, first and foremost, is Rosenfeld Park, which for many, many years has had signs down there, usually put up by sponsors of the Little League programs who donate money to those programs, and that's what those signs are there for. Those signs are in violation of the zoning bylaw. The first purpose of this amendment, frankly, is to make it so that what this community has expected and benefited from for many years without any difficulties, and the youth programs have benefited from and helped survive, is for the signs that are at Rosenfeld Park. That's the first focus. The other part of the focus was the discussions that have taken place over the summer, last year, over Town Park. Again, a similar situation. I've been here 36 years, and in my 36 years, there have always been banners by Milford community groups at Town Park, for better or for worse. However, those banners have always been in violation, technical violation of the zoning bylaw. So they haven't been regulated, they haven't been controlled. There are no permits that can be issued by the building commissioner to make that right. With what's being proposed here through this simple amendment is that the signs at Rosenfeld Park can continue to be there, and yes, you have to rely upon your park commissioners, your elected park commissioners, to make rational decisions about how many signs and where they could be located. But that has worked well over the years, even though they've been technically in violation of the zoning, and it should continue. In terms of the tank field, a very similar situation. Right now, there's been no regulation at all. Now the park commissioners, who have jurisdiction over that, even though it's owned by the water company, it's controlled as a town park, they'll be able to take control of that, and they'll be able to I've talked to them. They'll develop a set of regulations, simple regulations that they can force, that they can determine who can use them. Milford community groups can use them. In what areas can the signs be on? All that can be handled very, very nicely without getting into enormously detailed regulations in a zoning bylaw. Those are simple situations that your elected officials can deal with. The school committee is quite capable of making rational decisions as to sign locations at that athletic facility. So I don't think you should overcomplicate this matter. I think it's important that this pass so that these situations, again, particularly Rosenfeld Park, that are arguably illegal, can go forward properly and still provide support for youth groups. If the planning board or others have better ideas somewhere down the road to improve upon this, fine. That can go forward and proposals can come back to this body. But I think it's important that this pass tonight so that at least the status quo can go forward with some ability to control by the park commissioners and the school committee.
Any other vote care to be heard? Mr. Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Visconti, town meeting member from Precinct 8. The previous speaker spoke about the Parks Department maybe developing regulations for signs. There is no need for the Parks Department to develop regulations for signage. We have the regulations in place now. Let's enforce them. Let's enforce them across the board. Why recreate the wheel? Also, keep in mind, we already have 2 places in town, at least 2 places in town, where organizations can legally post their events. I'm sure you've seen them. There's one on Diller Street, Kiwanis Park. Place your event here. Very tastefully done, well organized, so that people will know what event you're promoting. What's wrong with that? Nothing. No. Let's put banners blowing in the breeze. If you want to turn Milford into a honky-tonk carnival town, then vote favorably on this amendment. On the other hand, if you want to preserve the image that I believe you would all like to see Milford establish, then please vote unfavorably on this article. Thank you very much.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. It's an amendment to our zoning bylaw and therefore requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor will rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. All those opposed will rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. Precinct 1. Precinct 1 reports 10 in favor, 2 opposed. Precinct 2. Precinct 2 reports 11 in favor, 6 opposed. Precinct 3. 7 in favor, 5 opposed.
Can I talk to you for a minute? You may.
Sorry, what? 11 in favor, how many opposed? 5 opposed. Precinct 4. Precinct 4 reports 2 in favor, 10 opposed. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 reports 14 in favor, 4 opposed. Precinct 6. Precinct 6 reports 9 in favor, 8 opposed. Precinct 7. Precinct 7 reports 12 in favor, 11 opposed. Precinct 8. Precinct 8 reports 4 in favor, 10 opposed. At large? At large, 12 in favor, none opposed.
I'm waiting to see.
85 having voted in favor, 56 against, 141 votes having been cast. The necessary two-thirds has not been acquired. Therefore, the motion is defeated. Article 29.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaw relating to obstructions permitted in required yards and noted hereinafter by deleting.
Motion made and seconded. We dispense with the reading of the remainder of the motion if it's exactly as appears in the warrant that was given to all town meeting members.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Any vote care to be heard in the motion to dispense? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the planning board have a report?
Pursuant to the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the Milford Planning Board conducted a duly posted and notified public hearing on April 12, 2015, regarding the subject of Article 29, at which time it voted unanimously to make a favorable recommendation at the town meeting. Article 29 amends the zoning bylaw by providing obstruction permitted in required yards. The Planning Board recommends the adoption of Article 29 as printed in the warrant.
Is any other vote care to be heard? Lena.
The Planning Board is proposing Article 29 to clarify various obstructions as permitted in yards required by the zoning bylaw. Currently, there are no specific provisions for each common things as overhanging eaves, gutters, stairs, porches, fences, walls, and hedges, etc. They are items normally occurring, especially in residential section. The Planning Board recommends you adopt this Article 29 as printed in the warrant.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion. Again, an amendment to our zoning bylaw requires a two-thirds vote. I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, the individual precincts will be polled. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 30. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, I move that the town vote to amend Article 18 of the general bylaws of the town by striking therefrom the current Article 18 in its entirety and replacing with the new Article 18 as follows.
Motion again made to dispense with the reading of the remainder motion is exactly as appears in the warrant. Is it, Mr. Johnson?
It is.
It is. Any vote care to be heard in the motion to dispense? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
We refer to sponsor.
Refer to sponsor. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So this is the culmination of an effort that I began when I became the chairman. It involves some strategies and some changes that wanted to be enacted by previous members of the board, my committee, before I actually even joined some of these changes. So primarily what we want to do is update a deadline for filing with our committee that the current department heads and chairpersons of various boards, commissions, and committees have when they're bringing their capital planning to us. Currently, the bylaws puts that deadline at January 1st, but in this town, we do most of our planning, it seems, in February, so we've moved that deadline out to the end of February to accommodate the actual capital planning that's going on in town. There have been some additional changes to get in line with some state language and some recommendations from the Department of Revenue. Particularly, the threshold for which our committee looks at capital projects has been unified. Previously, or currently, there are two separate thresholds depending upon the kind of project you have. One's at $20,000 and one's at $26,000. We've attempting to unify those to the same threshold for simplicity's sake. It also falls more in line with the recommendations from the Department of Revenue. And then, after my last meeting with the FinCom and after listening to a little bit of the radio today, I can tell there's a little bit of confusion about what our committee does for the town. That is where the housekeeping measures that represent a lot of the shifting. A lot of the language in this bylaw already exists in the bylaw. However, some of it is just in sections that seem inappropriate for the matter at hand for each given paragraph. So we cleaned that up. We also took some things that were combined together in single items and separated them into their own individual items so that it would be simpler to read and hopefully clarify exactly what we do for the town. The current Section 5 of our bylaw actually does include, like I said, previously I mentioned the deadline that the department heads and the chairpersons have for filing with us. So Section 5, while it is in our charter, also applies to the various department heads and chairpersons. So I would suggest, anybody who's interested to see what is it we're actually responsible for doing and how we're responsible for doing it, that's where you'll find the bulk of these changes. There is one other change, the very last item in our powers, Section 5, paragraph E. There used to be a report, that currently is a report that has never been produced for one reason or another in the history of the committee. It has no deadline, is not deliverable to anybody. So for efficiency, we took that out and replaced it with a requirement that forces our committee to review, amongst all its other, when we do our deliberations, the town's the comprehensive plan, which sets out the guidelines, the visions the town has for where we want to go with our capital planning. This is just one measure, but we wanted to make sure that what the town has said it wants for its goals and set into paper and approved by the planning board is, at the very minimum, is something that we are adhering to or at least measuring against. So when somebody brings an article before us, how does it rate to the plans that we've set out, the vision that the town has set out for itself? We plan to now tell you, and this makes sure, this codifies that to make sure that future iterations of the committee would also do the same. But that's essentially it. It's essentially to update the language, bring the language in line with some state suggestions, recommendations, and a little housekeeping to make sure that it's generally clear to the public and our various department heads and chairpeople what's going on with the Capital Improvement Committee. So I urge you to support this measure. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? Why don't you come up front? Mr. Schweimer.
George Swimer, Precinct 7. I'd like to make a motion to pass over this article. I've been a town meeting member now for about 7 or 8 years, and to the point of this whole committee, I actually don't understand exactly what the purpose of this committee is at all, considering we have a finance committee that looks at these items and carefully scrutinizes whether we can afford them or need them. So I'd like to pass it over and see if we can draft an article to eliminate this committee in the future and not vote on this tonight. Thank you.
Motion is made and seconded to pass over the article, which is to take no action on the motion as presented. Any other vote that care to be heard on the motion to pass over Article 30? Yes. Lose it.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I think we debated a couple of town meetings ago, I don't remember exactly when, the merits of the Capital Improvement Committee, pros and cons were presented. This town meeting voted to retain that committee as sort of a check and balance on Finance Committee's work and give the town meeting another perspective on capital improvements that the town should pursue. I don't think we should raise that debate under the auspices of this article. This article, as far as I can tell, just attempts to clean up some of the duties and requirements of this committee. If we want to debate whether or not we should have a capital improvement committee, that should be under a separate article and as a standalone. So I urge you not to pass over this article.
Mr. Moderator, point of clarification. Is there a motion on the floor to pass over this? Does that need
Motion to pass over, which is an attempt to take no action on the motion as presented. If you take no action on the motion as presented, my understanding would be that you'd still have an Article 18 in our bylaw.
Does the motion need a second to move?
Your motion is to take no action on this, on the motion to establish a capital, to amend Article 18 of the general bylaws of the town by striking the current Article 18 in its entirety and replacing it with a new Article 18. So if you want to pass over it, you're not taking any action on amending Article 18. You're not doing away with the Capital Planning Committee, as I would understand it. Any other vote care to be heard in the motion to pass over? Mr. Russell. Absolutely. I'm sorry, Russell. I always should know it by now. All right, my apologies.
Hi, Russell Bissler, Precinct 3. I'm on the, can you hear me now? Okay. It's not a sprint ad. I'm on the Capital Improvement Committee. We've worked over the course of the last couple of years since the last time that there was a proposal to re-coordinate what the committee's done. We've worked with Town Council to review the article as it's presented tonight. It's met with his approval. I urge you not to pass over the article so we can update this article to meet the needs of the town in the future. Thank you.
Any other vote that care to be heard in the motion to pass over? If not, the question comes up on the motion to pass over Article 30. All those in favor of passing over Article 30 manifest by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Motion to pass over is defeated. Any other vote that care to be heard on the motion under Article 30? Yes.
Brad Matchak, Precinct 4. I just have a very quick question and would move that the head of the CIC who wrote this clarify at the least Section 2B and 2C. The dates there are quite post-dated by up to 15 years.
I'm sorry.
I'm asking that the head of the CIC who wrote this clarify at the very least Section 2B and Section 2C. The dates in here make no sense. They're post-dated by up to 15 years. Expiring terms in 1997, 1999, 96, 98, 2000. This is the section to replace the old section.
Right. This is the new Capital Improvement Committee.
Exactly. I asked that the head of the CIC clarify those dates. They don't seem to make sense.
Okay. Any vote care to be heard? Town Council Moody. Town Council Moody.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's simply the language that's in the current bylaw. There's simply no change in that regard. To make a change, to change all the dates, to bring it up to date would involve essentially replacing the entire Capital Improvement Committee. So in the course of making this amendment, it amends and affect certain provisions, but there's others that aren't changed. But linguistically, they simply stay in there. So there's simply no change from the status quo, so there's going to be no change in the membership. That's all that's about.
Any other vote care to be heard? Mr. Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Visconti, Precinct 8 member. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I reviewed the current CIC bylaw, and I don't really see the need to change anything in that bylaw. It seems to be adequate as it is now, as long as the provisions of that bylaw are followed. So I would urge you to vote favorably. I would urge you to vote unfavorably on this article. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? The question comes upon the motion as presented, that the town vote to amend Article 18 of the general bylaws of the town by striking therefrom the current Article 18 in its entirety and replacing it with a new Article 18 as follows, and as appears in your warrant that you have before you. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Motion is carried. Article 31, Selectman Kincaid.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move to see that the town will vote to accept as and for a public way, a private way known as Woodland Court with the appurtenant easements in accordance with the report of the Board of Selectmen dated March 23rd, 2015 as follows.
Motion made and seconded. We waive the reading of the legal description if it exactly appears in the layout of the board by the Board of Selectmen. It is. Any vote care to be heard on the motion to dispense? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the Planning Board have a report? Favorable recommendation from the Planning Board. Mr. Kincaid.
Thank you. At a public hearing held March 9th, 2015, the Milford Board of Selectmen voted to lay out the Woodland Court as a public way. The Planning Board and Town Engineer have also recommended favorable action. The developer and fee holder is Dennis DeJondo Corporation.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion is carried unanimously. Article 32. Selectman Kincaid.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move to see if the town will vote to accept as and for a public way, a private way known as Roland Way, with the appurtenant easements in accordance with the report of the Board of Selectmen dated March 23rd, 2015 as follows.
Motion made and seconded to dispense with reading of the legal description if it's exactly as appears in the layout by the Selectmen. It is. Any vote care to be heard in the motion to dispense? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the Planning Board have a report or recommendation? Favorable recommendation. Any vote care to be heard? Mr. Kincaid.
At a public hearing held March 9th, 2015, the Milford Board of Selectmen voted to lay out Roland Way as a public way. The Planning Board and Town Engineer have also recommended favorable action. The developer and fee holder is F&D Central Realty Corporation. I ask for your support.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 33. Nina?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaw of the town as provided herein as follows. By adding the...
Is the description the rest of the same? Is there any change from the warrant article?
No, there
Lena?
isn't.
No. Motion
No.
is made and seconded. We dispense with the reading of the remainder, since it's exactly as appears in your warrant. Any voted care to be heard in the motion to dispense? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the planning board have a report?
Pursuant to the Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the Milford Planning Board conducted a duly posted and noticed public hearing on April 12, 2015, regarding the subject of Article 33, at which time it voted unanimously to make a favorable recommendation to the town meeting. Article 33 amends the zoning bylaw by providing for individual lot drainage requirements. The Planning Board recommends the adoption of Article 33 as printed in the warrant.
Any other voted care to be heard? Lena?
The Planning Board is proposing Article 33 to provide standards for on-site drainage and grading on individual lots. Currently, the issue of grading and drainage is only addressed at a level of overall subdivision approval, where such standards are contained in the town subdivision regulations. However, there are no specific standards for individual lot development, and lots that have been created by 81P plans, approved not required plans, are not subject to even the border subdivision regulation standards. While the site plan review process and standards cover commercial and industrial developments, residential developments on individual lots are not subject to the specific drainage and grading standards. This has caused negative effects on adjacent properties from improper and uncontrolled drainage. The Planning Board recommends you adopt Article 33 as printed in this warrant.
Any other voted care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor, well, since it's an amendment to our zoning bylaw, it requires a 2/3 vote. I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, then the individual precincts will be polled. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 34.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to amend Section 1.5, Certificate of Zoning Compliance of the zoning bylaws regarding the site improvements by deleting Section 1.5.4, completion of plantings, and adopting in lieu of thereof the following new section 1.5.4. 1.5.4, completion of plantings. All trees, landscape, open space, and buffers, planted screens, and other landscaping required by this bylaw or by any applicable decision is designated for a special permit granting authority, shall be installed prior to occupancy and commencement of use. No certificate of zoning compliance shall be issued until all required plantings have been completed. Such certificates shall be revoked if the owner fails to maintain such plantings of landscaping. However, where such a compliance and impeccable due to the seasons of the year, the building commissioner may issue a temporary certificate of zoning compliance as specified in section 1.5.1 herein if appropriate surety has been provided as specific to the section 1.5.3 herein. Milford Plan.
Motion made and second. The town vote to amend section 1.5 of the Certificate of Zoning Compliance of the zoning bylaw relating to site improvement by deleting section 1.5.4, completion of plantings, and adopting in lieu thereof the following new section 1.5.4. Does the planning board have a report?
Yes. Pursuant to the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the Milford Planning Board conducted a duly posted and noticed public hearing on April 21st, 2015, regarding the subject of Article 34, at which time it voted unanimously to make a favorable recommendation to the town meeting. Article 34 amends the zoning bylaw by restored language that had previously been inadvertently omitted in section 1.5.4, completion of plantings. The Planning Board recommends the adoption of Article 34 as printed in the warrant.
Does any other vote care to be heard? Lena?
The Planning Board is proposing Article 34 to restore the language that had, at some point in time, been inadvertently omitted. The new text restores those phrases as well as clarifies the language so as to accurately reflect the accepted procedures as well as the original intent of this section. The Planning Board recommends you adopt Article 34 as printed in the warrant.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented, which is an amendment to our zoning bylaw, requires a 2/3 vote. I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, the individual precincts will be polled. All those in favor of the motion manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 35. Motion made and seconded. We pass over Article 35. Does any vote care to be heard in the motion to pass over Article 35? Well, we're still on 35, Brian. If not, the question comes upon the motion to pass over Article 35. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried to pass over Article 35. Article 36. Brian.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $2,600,000 to be utilized together with any available state or federal funds, said sum to be spent under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of acquiring land and/or easements and for construction of culverts and other structures required to alleviate flooding in the area of and to make repairs to the Godfrey Brook, and in particular the Congress Terrace and Main Street culverts and other structures required to alleviate flooding. And further, to meet that appropriation, that the town raise the sum of $500,000 on the tax levy and transfer the sum of $1 million from the excess and deficiency account and authorize the treasurer with approval of the Board of Selectmen to borrow the remaining sum of $1.1 million pursuant to the provisions of GL Chapter 44, Section 7, or any other authority enabling.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to appropriate the sum of $2,600,000 be utilized together with any available state or federal funds, said sum to be spent under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of acquiring land and/or easements and for construction of culverts and other structures required to alleviate flooding in the area of and to make repairs to the Godfrey Brook, and in particular the Congress Terrace and Main Street culverts and other structures required to alleviate flooding. And further, to meet that appropriation, the town raised the sum of $500,000 on the tax levy and transfer the sum of $1 million from the excess and deficiency account and authorize the treasurer with the approval of the Board of Selectmen to borrow the remaining sum of $1,100,000 pursuant to the provisions of General Laws Chapter 44, Section 7, or any other authority enabling. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
To be heard. Selectman Murray.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've heard of this. Godfrey Brook throughout the town is problematic. Our town engineer, our highway surveyor, targeted these two particular areas at the Congress Terrace, Westbrook Street, and Main Street. They were fortunate enough to be able to secure a FEMA grant to the tune of about $800,000, which will help defray some of the cost. The project has been fully permitted through DEP, the Conservation Commission, the Army Corps of Engineers. We've gone out to bid. We're ready to go on this. I would appreciate your support.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. It requires borrowing, therefore, a two-thirds vote is necessary. I'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, the individual precincts will be polled. All those in favor of the motion manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 37.
I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of Section 8J of Chapter 40 of the general laws relating to the establishment of a Commission on Disability, and further to authorize, in accordance with General Laws Chapter 40, Section 22G, that all funds received for violations of handicap parking regulations in the town of Milford be deposited in a separate account for utilization by the Milford Commission on Disability for the benefit of persons with disabilities.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to accept the provisions of Section 8J of Chapter 40 of the general laws relating to the establishment of a Commission on Disability, and further to authorize, in accordance with General Laws Chapter 40, Section 22G, that all funds received for violations of handicap parking regulations in the town of Milford to be deposited in a separate account for utilization by the Milford Commission on Disability for the benefit of persons with disabilities. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. So you voted care to be heard. Attorney Murray.
How you guys doing all right over
I'm
there?
trying.
Right now, ladies and gentlemen, funds collected on handicap parking violations go into the general fund for general town purposes. The Handicap Commission asked us to look at this to see whether or not those funds could be deposited directly with them so they could have a working capital budget to do some of the projects that they do throughout the town to help handicapped people. The Board of Selectmen voted unanimously on that. Over the last 4 years, the money that we've taken is averaged between $6,000 and $15,000.
Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 38. Selectman Kincaid.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000, said sum, to be spent under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen to undertake repair or replacement of the boilers at the Milford Police Station.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000, said sum to be spent under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen to undertake repair or replacement of boilers at the Milford Police Station. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any voter care to be heard? Selectman Kincaid.
This article seeks to appropriate the sum of $100,000 to replace the boilers at the police station. The existing boilers at the station did not pass inspection. Sections of the boilers completely corroded and failed, causing a leak. They were originally installed in 1990 and are past their useful life. The system will be replaced with new, higher efficiency units with an estimated 10 to 12% annual heating savings. In addition to energy savings, this will save on maintenance costs as well. I ask for your support.
Is any other voter care to be heard? Not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 39. Selectman Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator and town meeting members, I move that the town vote in accordance with the general laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41, to reduce the age eligibility requirements for senior citizens under the tax relief program established thereby from age 68 to 66.
Motion made and seconded. The town vote in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41C, to reduce the age eligibility requirements for senior citizens under the tax relief program established thereby from age 68 to age 66. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any voter care to be heard? Selectman Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As many of you may know, seniors are eligible for tax relief by working through a program that reduces a small percentage that they work. All this does is it maintains our program, but it allows people to enter into the program 2 years earlier if they so wish, making them eligible rather than 68, now at age 66. I'd urge your support. Thank you.
Does any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Opposed, no. The motion is carried unanimously. Article 40. Motion made and seconded, we pass over Article 40. Does any voter care to be heard on the motion to pass over Article 40? If not, the question comes upon the motion to pass over Article 40. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Article 40 is passed over. Article 41. Town Council Moody.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of Clause 54 of Section 5 of Chapter 59 of the General Laws and exempt $1,000 of fair cash value on personal property accounts to be taxed for fiscal year 2016 and thereafter.
Motion made and seconded, the town vote to accept the provisions of Clause 54 of Section 5 of Chapter 59 of the General Laws and exempt $1,000 of fair cash value on personal property accounts to be taxed for fiscal year 2016 and thereafter. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Town Council Moody.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you may be aware, there are some business and industrial accounts that pay personal property taxes. Residents don't do that. Again, it's just limited to business and commercial enterprises. And this only deals with those that are that have an overall valuation of $1,000 or less. So it has no effect on those where there's a value of $2,000, $10,000, whatever the number is. But if the value is under $1,000, then it won't be assessed. The total effect to the town in this year's would have been $2,700. And the very practical reason for this is the cost of collecting this, and these are always the accounts that are difficult to collect or that have gone out of business, exceeds that amount of money. So from the assessor's point of view, it makes sense to limit it this way and save those difficult collection costs.
Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 42. Selectman Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, I move that the town vote to transfer a sum of $50,000 from the excess and deficiency account. Said sum to be utilized to supplement the police/fire, medical, or injured on duty budget line item 122-5303. Voted under Article 4 of the May 19th, 2014 annual town meeting.
Motion made and seconded, the town vote to transfer the sum of $50,000 from the excess and deficiency account. Said sum to be utilized to supplement the police/fire, medical, injured on duty budget line item 122-5303, voted under Article 4 of the May 19, 2014 annual town meeting. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any voter care to be heard? Selectman Buckley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Due to increased expenditures in the medical services provided to our police and firemen, we estimate as a town that we'll need approximately $50,000 to cover expenses to the end of this fiscal year. Obviously, you understand the challenge in being able to anticipate in advance of what these charges will be, so there's no capability to calculate with any degree of certainty what year-to-year costs are. I'd ask your support for your support for this article. Thank you.
Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 43.
Move to pass over Article 43, Mr.
Motion made and seconded, we pass over Article 43. Does any voter care to be heard on the motion to pass over Article 43? If not, the question comes upon the motion to pass over Article 43. All those in favor manifest by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion to pass over is carried. Article 44. Zach?
Article 44, I move that the town vote to transfer sums between certain line items voted under Article 4 of the May 19th, 2014 annual town meeting as follows. is.
It is in the Finance Committee report. Is it, no changes to that?
No changes.
No changes. So it is in your Finance Committee report, the transfers. Any vote care to be heard on the motion to dispense with the reading of the particular transfers? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Favorable. Any vote care to be heard? Zach?
Town meeting members, when Article 4 is voted, as you did earlier tonight, it is an estimate. Department heads try their best to keep within their budget, but sometimes circumstances such as unexpected repairs or retirements put actual expenditures over budget. Likewise, other departments often come in well under budget. This article simply cleans up the budget within existing appropriation.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried.
Not yet. Not yet.
I'll make it quick, I promise.
Article 45.
Article 45, I move that the town vote to close out certain special article accounts to the general fund as follows.
Is it exactly as appears in the report of the Finance Committee?
It is.
It is. You don't want to read it to keep Mr. D'Antonio from going home.
I wouldn't dare.
Should we do that just so he gets to stay up a little bit later? No. All right. Any vote care to be heard on the motion to dispense? If not, the question comes upon the motion to dispense. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. And vote care to be heard? Yes.
I'll make this quick.
All
I
right.
promise. I'll put it real simply. All these articles are no longer required to be encumbered. All the projects are completed. Real simply put, it'll end up in free cash if we close them tonight. Thank you.
Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Motion made that we dissolve the warrant. All those any vote care to be heard? If not, all those in favor manifest by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Monitors, please bring forward your attendance sheets.